Right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight, a day early, but gotta get these out in advance for my vacation. So here we are. It's a lovely Saturday though. We've got Sinister here. Welcome to the show.
How's it going? Great to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you on. It'll be nice to learn some super early speedrun history here because you've been around quite a long time.
Certainly have. I've been around since 2009 in
Wow.
speedrunning. Yeah.
Pretty crazy to think about how much time has come since
It's
then.
true. When I started, I never thought that, oh yeah, 15 years later, 14 years later, I'll still be doing this, but hey, here I am. So, must be something good about it.
Yeah, I can't see myself stopping anytime soon either, so it's kind of fun. So, oh
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
2009, huh?
Mhm.
So, what got you started in speedrunning then?
So a friend of mine, actually, it's hilarious. I was literally just talking to him on the phone before this. He showed me a video of Andrew G doing Super Mario 1 in 5 minutes, which at the time was the record. And well, first he told me he's like, "Oh yeah, you know that this guy can beat Super Mario Bros. In 5 minutes," and I'm like, "No way, you can't beat that game in 5 minutes." And then he showed me the video, and I was just like, mind blown. And after that, I just would look for different videos, look at my other favorite games. And ultimately, what got me to start speedrunning myself was that there were two games that I really loved: Mike Tyson's Punch Out and Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. And there were no speedruns for them in 2009.
Really?
So I
All
was
right.
like heartbroken that I'd seen this amazing new thing, speedrunning, and then it's like I don't get to see how my two favorite games are speedrun. So then I decided that I never wanted anyone else to have this terrible feeling of typing into the search bar and getting no results. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna speedrun those games, and then that's what I got started with.
It's interesting because I know Punch-Out has like a really long history, plenty
Hmm.
pre-2009, so the fact that there was nothing,
No videos
no
though.
video.
Those guys, yeah, you're right. They did have a community that was in the mainly the early 2000s, and what they would do is they would play on emulator and they would record. There was this old emulator. The name of it escapes me, and nobody uses
Was
it
it
anymore. But
Nesticle?
Nesticle, there we
Yeah.
go. Yes, and I think you could do recordings that way. And what they would do is instead of actually, I mean, they would share the Nesticle recordings with sometimes, but then for people that were playing on actual hardware, wouldn't do that. They would just do a write up because they had like a website. So they would do a write up of like, I beat Bald Bull in 58 seconds, and this is the strategy that I did. And then other people could kind of like try to copy the strategy. And that was the kind of form of verification, if you will, is that, you said how you did it. Other people would try it and be like, oh, you could actually conceivably do this. So yeah, but none of them had, there was no YouTube back then. There was none of that. So nobody was recording anything as far as I know. I mean, Matt Turk did have a few VHS tapes, but none of that stuff ever got uploaded to the internet until Summoning Salt uploaded like one of his Mike Tyson fights a couple years ago. So,
Crazy you couldn't find that anywhere. Like I know
yeah,
Twin
yeah, not at
Galaxies got
all.
plenty of, and even what SDA got some tapes in quite a bit, but
Right. Yeah,
none
so
for
on
Punch
Speed
Out.
Demos Archive there was no speed runs for those two games. So I had joined at a time where it was still very new, and a lot of the games were getting their first runs at that time. So it was really exciting actually, being around, and you'd log in, and every couple weeks or so there'd be an update, and it would be like five new games got, speed runs, and you'd get click in and watch them. And it was like Christmas morning. I mean, you didn't know what was going to be inside. Like nowadays we have Twitch and everybody watches speedruns constantly, and you like know what all the strats are and everything, but you would open up a video and you'd be like, I have no idea what's about to happen right now. And it was really the most amazing thing. I wish I could kind of almost go back to that, but the only way to really do that would be to like watch a speed run of a game that I've never watched a speed run for, but I don't know if there's any that exist. I'm pretty sure I've watched them for all the games that I like. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but so there was nothing on Speed Demo's archive, and then Twin Galaxies did not ever post any videos. So you
Mm.
would have to submit a video to Twin Galaxies at that time for them to verify privately. But then they would just post whatever whatever the time or the score was. They wouldn't actually put any video proof. So yeah, there was absolutely nothing. I think the only thing that there was for Punch Out, actually, there was a tool assisted speed run.
Mm.
However, the majority of the strats from that were completely useless for real time.
Yeah.
It's just way too advanced and way too luck based. So I was not able to actually use anything from the tasks at that time.
Yeah. So you literally just had to read and figure it out from there.
Yeah, essentially what I did with Punch Out was I would go back to that old website which was called Red Tom's. Red Tom was the guy, and that, so he just named the website after himself. And people would post their strategies there. But the thing was that nobody did single segment at that time. There was no point. It was because the people didn't use timers to time themselves. If there was an in-game timer, that was the whole reason they even competed.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Punch Out had the in-game timer, that blue screen after you finish the fight, that's how people would compete. So it was all individual fights. And unfortunately, in the individual fights, the variety of luck that you can get is so massive in terms of the spectrum of luck that the individual fight strategies were not at all useful for real time. So I essentially had to modify like any of those strategies and kind of like pick and choose, like, okay, well, this part I can use and this part I can't, and kind of do this amalgamation of different ideas, and then come up with my own ideas, and then that's how the strategies were formed for Punch Out. And I was on my own at that time. There was nobody active in the community. So there's kind of this gap, like after Matt Turk had come and just taken all the records, and everybody basically just stopped playing, probably in the mid 2000s. And then this was it was 2010 by the time I started Punch Out. But yeah, I was completely on my own.
That's very interesting that just everyone just stopped playing around that time.
Yeah, I think it was because Matt Turk had set the bar so high that nobody really wanted to bother to compete anymore. They were just like, all right,
Classic Matt
you
Turk.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, classic Matt Turk. Yeah, he killed the game. World record is dead, basically for every single fight.
Of
Uh,
course. But hey,
so
made an
yeah,
interesting journey to beat all of it.
yes, of course. There's the famous summoning salt video, the quest to beat Matt Turk, in which myself and by then, thankfully, several other people joined to help beat him all his times. But initially, it was only me, and I could never beat him. And then one time, I did tie him, and I was in communication with him because I actually, when I started my whole thing, his email address was somewhere on one of these sites, and I was like, let me just email the guy, see what's up. And he was like so excited to talk Punch Out with me. I'm like, I'm a complete stranger, nobody, he has no idea who I am, but he's just like telling me everything about Punch Out. So we would have these long email conversations back and forth, and I'd be able to get some strats from him and so on. But eventually, I like finally tied one of his times. It was like Sandman or something, and he like, I think this upset him. He was like, I'm not having this. So he immediately like started doing attempts again, and he like lowered the time, and I was just like, okay.
Interesting.
He was like, back up off my record.
Just for that one.
Just for the Sandman. Yeah, that was the only one that I could come close to, because that one, it's actually the one fight outside of like the Glass Joe kind of, Don
Yeah, well, yeah.
Flamenco ones that are like maxed out. That's the one fight where you really can't do like any like super advanced strategy, or at the time you couldn't. Like you kind of just had to go along with the fight. So it was really just down to execution.
Mhm.
Um, and so there was some luck involved, but it was pretty reasonable to get like the luck that you needed. So that's why I was able to, even though I was doing like single segment, that I was still able to tie the time. And yeah, so then he promptly lowered it, and I had to accept defeat for
Mm.
that moment. But eventually I would beat him, and he had done a single segment run, which was unusual because, like I said, nobody really did that. And he gave me like the times from his single segment run. I believe it was just over 17 minutes. I want to say it was like maybe a 17:01 or something like that.
That's really good for
Uh,
back then. Wow.
yeah, yeah, it was really good for back then. It was insane. And with the amount, the type of strategies that were available back then, yeah, that time was crazy. And so that was the time that I wanted to beat. And eventually I did beat that, of course. It took a while.
Yeah,
Took a
I can
uh,
imagine.
it took some frustration. I'm not much of like a rage gamer or anything like that, but the one time that I did throw my controller in my entire life, like just once ever, this was before I was streaming also, because this was back in like 2010 or 11 or whenever it was. And I was on pace to beat him, and I got to Mike Tyson, and I got Mike Tyson down. I had a good first knockdown. So I was like, this is it. All I need to do is not get hit. And of course I got hit, and I just like threw my controller. I was just so upset. Because I was really having trouble, like, beating his time.
Hmm.
And I was like, this was it. This was the one, this was my chance, and I blew it. But I ended up getting it on stream once I had actually started streaming. So it ended up being much better anyway that I
Yeah.
got it on stream in front of, however many people were watching at the time.
I mean, in all fairness, Tyson is kind of hard, so
He is. Yeah, he
especially I assume
is.
you needed a round one, right?
Yes, and I was on pace for that, and I knew it. So
Hmm.
that's, the thing is that there's like he can do certain different delays, and that's generally how people end up getting hit, is that he has that randomness between his delays, and people start to anticipate what he's going to do. And
Hmm.
even when you've played the game as much as I had at that time, like he's still going to get you sometimes with that delay. Like you think he's going to not delay, and then he does it, and you're like, "Oh," you walk right into the punch. So that's kind of what happened. Uh yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
definitely
it all
struggle
worked
with that
out.
myself. It's so
Hmm.
easy to get a rhythm down that just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's like the natural thing I think to do in most video games, is that there is some kind of rhythm to it and some kind of pattern to it. But it's like it breaks away from it completely. And I think the programmers were really quite quite genius in the way that they made that fight.
Hmm. But you also need so many frame perfect punches in just the Tyson fight alone.
You do, yeah, you do. You need I think you need at least like 12 or 13 to get a round one.
So many.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I have a 257 myself. I'm trying to remember.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how many frame perfects I would have gotten. I think it was like 108 to 203 to I don't
Okay,
remember.
so
Something
yeah,
like that.
I'm sure you got, yeah, if you got a 108, you probably got at least like 7 or 8 in the first phase, probably
Yeah,
8.
and that's like a
Uh,
lot
and,
of frame
yeah,
perfects right
that's a
off the
lot.
bat.
Yeah,
So
and
hard
then
that fight is.
to get the 203, you would have needed like another 4.
Hmm.
Yeah, 4, but it's probably, yeah, he would have thrown 4 punches off of 108. So,
Yeah.
yep, you probably got 12. That would be my estimation.
Yeah, and then there's also that 8-second delay. That's what just a coin flip that can happen, and that
Yep,
throws a lot of things out too.
that can happen. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of luck involved in that game.
Oh yeah, I've seen like the videos of like just how much luck is in there. Like I've watched a lot of Impaps videos, and just the numbers, seeing how large the odds get is like mind-boggling.
Yeah, I probably never would have chosen that game if it wasn't one of my favorites. If I had known, if I came to speedrunning much later and people were like, "Oh yeah, you need to get this crazy luck to be," I'd be like, "I don't want to deal with that game."
Yeah. So what stops me a lot of times, I hate RNG personally. Really grinds
Yeah,
my gears.
right. Well, to me, I find it to be a bit of a double-edged sword, because I've played games that don't have any RNG, and then it's like you can't blame anybody but yourself when things go wrong if that's the case. And you have a higher standard, because you can't be like, oh well, I could get a really good run, and maybe if a few bad luck things happen, that's okay. It's like, no, you just have to get a really good run and make no mistakes, because there's no RNG.
Hmm.
So
As someone who
execution
runs
has to
Mario
be.
1, I feel that. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
most definitely.
Yep, just execute all your frame perfects.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
You
all.
got yeah, you have a tough road there.
Yeah,
The
just a little.
the main two games that I played that didn't have RNG, well, no RNG to really speak of. So Ninja Gaiden 2,
Mm.
there's like a minute bit that's largely irrelevant. And then Chippendale Rescue Rangers, there's actually an RNG lock. If you let the demo screen play at the beginning of the game, it locks in the RNG for the entire run.
Yeah, I remember learning that. Like, I'm good friends with Takate, so I've watched his runs plenty. But
Okay.
yeah, like I was watching for so long, and then he was one of my first guests on here, and he told me that. I was like, I didn't know that. That
Yeah,
was very
yeah. No,
interesting.
it's crazy, and they found it out from doing races of the game because, of course, if you're in a race setting, usually people are kind of waiting around. Everybody has to get ready, etc. So it's like the demo screen's playing for everybody, and then eventually somebody was like, "These guys are all getting the exact same boss pattern. What's up with that?" And
Because
then
it's
something
supposed to
clicked.
vary.
Yeah,
It's like, wait
yeah.
a second.
It varies pretty wildly. Those bosses have a lot of different patterns. So yeah,
Hmm.
I think it was, it became obvious and ironically, yeah, I had done a race at GDQ, and we didn't even notice. We didn't even notice that we got the same RNG for all the boss fights. Like I'd watch that run back, no idea that it's like I just didn't click. But yeah, eventually somebody figured it out, and then yeah, that's one of my favorite speed runs. I would do that co-op with my buddy General Andrews. We did that for several years actually.
Yeah, that record seems like really insane as well.
Yeah, I don't see anybody coming along and beating that simply because it's, co-op games just by their nature, it's hard to get two speedrunners together to even do a co-op run to begin with.
Mhm.
And then you'd have to find two people that are of like a high enough skill level to compete. And they'd have to like live close enough together to be able to put in the amount of attempts needed. So there's like a lot of barriers versus if it's just an individual run, like yeah, somebody can come along and beat you, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but for this, like we did put in a tremendous amount of work. Um, so I would say that our there's two categories for people that don't know this run. There's any percent, and then there's all zones, which is basically all levels. So there's three levels in the game that you don't actually have to play. You can just skip them because you control on the overworld map the route that you take. So you can just avoid those three levels if you don't want to play them. And for the any percent run, we do have one mistake in that run that costs about a half a second. So
Oh
if
no.
somebody has to, yeah, well, no. But the funny thing is that our two previous like core records that we had zero mistakes. So we were like, it like really bothered us that we had this one mistake because we had essentially perfect runs in the last two. It's just our strategies had evolved to such a point that like, we were the first run that we got was 925, and that was it was like a flawless run. There's like, maybe you're just losing some frames on movement in a few places, but there's no actual mistake where you can point to and be like, oh, that was a mistake.
Mm.
Um, and then we got a 921 because we figured out there were zips in that game, which actually allow you to move much quicker through a few different areas, and it saves like seconds. So we had to go. We were done at the 925, and then we found the zips, and then it was like, oh, we got to go back and do. So we got the 921, and then he was like, all right, this time he's like, listen, we're not coming back to this unless we can save like at least another 2 seconds and go sub 920. The classic arbitrary speedrunner, like I need to get to the next
Mm.
next increment
Guilty
thing.
of that, yeah.
Yeah, we all are.
Of
It's
course.
yeah. And this was, I think, just before the pandemic. So what ended up happening was like kind of throughout the course of the pandemic, I would like find little stuff here and there, and then eventually, by like when it was kind of the lockdowns and stuff were over, and it was like, hey, I've found enough strategies. I think we can get sub 920. So then we went back to it for one last grind and found even more stuff while we were doing that, and then now we have 915 is uh our time for that, which for anybody that doesn't know, this is one of the few rare games where the co-op run is actually much faster than the single player run. So the single player world record, I believe, is like a 45, 46, something like that.
Yeah.
So we're like 30 seconds faster than the single player run.
And what makes it so much faster?
So there's a few things. Mainly, it's that you can when you die in this game. In some co-op games, you just respawn, right? So like one person dies, they just respawn. Like Contra, for
Hmm.
instance, another great NES game. One player dies, they just respawn right where the action's happening. In this game, when you respawn, you're actually like holding onto a balloon and you're on the background layer of the game. So you can't, no enemies can touch you and you can pass through objects. So it's pretty busted. So obviously there's a lot of places that you can exploit this and you can, have one person be in the balloon and they can just kind of pass through the screen very quickly because, nothing can interfere with them. And then there's certain areas where you can actually both get into a balloon at the same time because if you stagger your deaths in such a way, then one person, as soon as they're reappearing in their balloon, the other person reappears in their balloon. Like then you're able to save time going through, like there's one stage that has these fans that blow, they blow backwards against you, and so when you're walking against them it slows you down. You can only walk at maybe like 1/4 speed or something like that. So you can just skip that whole fan section. You both just get in the balloon and then the fans don't blow you backwards. So it's probably like a 10-second time save, just that by itself, maybe more. um, that, and then there are a few areas where you can, as a team, you can get through faster because you can either jump off of each other's heads, or one of the fun mechanics in the co-op Rescue Rangers, you can actually pick each other up and you can throw your friend. So there might be like a high ledge that normally you'd have to take a different route to get to, but you could jump and then throw your friend up there. And then you would die and then your friend just keeps going, so you'd be able to cut a corner and save a couple seconds like that. So those are the main ways in which it saves time over the one player run. But yeah, it ends up being a lot by the end of the game.
Yeah. And since it sounds like it's so perfect, like what's your sum of best in that then?
That's a good question. It's been so long since we did any percent. I actually have to check.
Switch over to all
But it's
zones.
yeah, we
Yeah.
switched to all zones. Let's see here. Rescue Rangers, any percent. I hope this is even the right one. All right, hold on. Compare against personal best. 915. Okay, and then of course I'm in like some other game where I don't have my sum of best displayed, so we need to change the layout of this as well. Open C and D.
Asking the complicated
Maybe this one?
questions I am.
Okay, here we go. 913.1
Holy
is our
crap.
sum of best,
Okay.
and 915.9 is our record, which is ideal. You want to be about 2 seconds off. That's what we found like in each iteration of our record, as before we like found a bunch of new strats. Like we could get within 2 to 3 seconds off of the sum of best because there's no RNG in the game.
Hmm.
So you can actually get it pretty close.
Yeah, that is incredibly optimized though.
Yeah,
Especially for co-op,
yeah.
that's got to be just really hard to coordinate something to that level of execution.
Yes, it definitely is. And I think the biggest advantage that we have is that General Andrews and I, we live like about 20 minutes away from each other. So, we were able to play consistently, and we would play like every week for the most part. I mean, every now and then, yeah, we'd have to skip a week, but just that ability to play consistently, and the fact that there's no RNG helped a lot. And we had a pretty good practice regimen. We would always practice for about 45 minutes before stream, so we would hit the key areas pretty hard. And so by the time we actually started doing attempts, we were in good shape. But yeah, no, it's definitely a record that I'm proud of and he's proud of. uh and even if we had gotten that point 0.5 time save, it wouldn't have taken us to 914. So it works out,
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah, good enough.
Yeah,
I'd
good
say it's
enough.
good enough.
Yeah, it is. I will say one thing though, is that if we could go back to the game, because a few there were a few strategies that I had found that we didn't implement because they were such small time saves and they were such high variance that the risk reward was not really worth it.
Mm.
And one of them is actually a zip, which is a big, relatively speaking, is a big time save. It's a point 0.4 time save. The problem is that there actually is some randomness in this game that applies in this particular situation, which is if you're doing a zip, and there's many ledges in this game. So in this particular instance, you're doing a zip, and then you get to the edge, and then you fall down to the next floor, and then if you're positioned in such a way, you will continue zipping. But if you're not, you will not. But it's not just the positioning. There's like some luck involved in whether you do it or not. So we figured out it's maybe
Mhm.
about 50-50. So we'd have to reset quite heavily because of that, because half the time we would just lose our run to that zip
Mhm.
failing because of the RNG. And so we decided, yeah, it's not quite worth it. And then a lot of the other stuff, like most of the big time saves that are left are like point 0.1, point 0.2. It's so tiny. Uh and it's like tough. Or we'd have to switch roles, which is another thing. So
Mhm.
there's normally it's like one of us has to do a certain section, and there's the hardest sections really for Chippendale Rescue Rangers, even in one player, are the climb sections, because the idea is that you have full control over your character's jump height. So you can like really, when you have to do like maybe 5, 6, 7 jumps in a row, if you can like land on the perfect frame and immediately repress the jump button, you can get these like frame perfect climbs, and it's really, really tough. And to switch, that would take such a lot of effort. So like one of the climbs, I would have to switch away from doing it, and he would have to do it. So he would have to completely learn that climb. And what we realized is like the amount of time it would take for him to get up to speed on that climb was too long compared to because the amount of time save is so small. So it's
Mhm.
like any time save that we would have is going to get burned up by him not climbing as fast as I climb. So it's like it's not even a time save until he gets to that level.
Wow.
um so yeah, so that was like, but if we ever wanted to come back, we could get a 914. At this point we could definitely get 914 if we ever wanted to come back and do another grind. But or if some other team decided they wanted to go super super hardcore, yeah, we just never incorporated some of those insane strats at the end.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds fascinatingly complicated.
Yeah, for such a simple game with no RNG, like the amount of stuff that we would keep finding and just like small optimizations, it's really crazy. And I know there's more stuff. There's always more stuff. I mean, if any game has proven that, it's Super Mario Bros. 1, right? Like,
Well,
you know.
I don't. There's not really any new stuff. At least nothing new in like the past 14 years. But it just humans are able to actually match what was found.
Okay, fair
What's
enough.
being
So
found.
being able
Like it
to
gets
replicate
easier, I
past
guess.
strategies.
Like more consistent strategies were found, but nothing that saves time. Just because I assume Chippendale has no frame rule thing. So.
I think there is like a super tiny one, but
Hmm.
it's like the variability of it is only a few frames anyway.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's not like Super Mario Bros. Where it's like actually a significant number of frames between
Yeah.
the difference. Um, the only reason I know this or hypothesize this is because I did actually get to the point where we have this incredible spreadsheet where we actually have frame counts of every single room, so that we could know, because we had to analyze like where we're losing time and things like that. And this was the way to do it. We just had to figure out, okay, we're losing time in this room. We're losing 6 frames or whatever it was. So we'd have to go in and really hyper focus on a certain area and be like, oh, okay, lost a frame there, lost a frame there, lost a frame there, and try to like clean that stuff up. So what would happen is like in between the stages, I would start noticing, okay, there's like this weird, 1 to 4 frame variability of how long it takes in between stages sometimes. But it would end up kind of like coming out in the wash over the course of the run. So it's like
Yeah.
even if you lost 2 frames in one frame rule, you'd gain it back in a later one. It's weird. So
Again, fascinatingly complicated.
yeah, Yeah, I'm sure some, tool assisted speedrunner could figure out exactly what was going on. But the game's not as popular like Mario, so it's not going to have people doing deep dives and investigating and stuff like that. Uh,
Hmm.
Although I did actually commission a tasser to do a really cool practice hack for us
Hmm.
where it would actually, because since we couldn't practice on our own certain things, this would take control of one of the chipmunks and make them do the prescribed movement that we want them to do, so that I could practice a certain trick when General Andrews wasn't there. Like his chipmunk would still do
Wow.
the and this is on Power Pack. So on
Hmm.
emulator, that's very easy to do.
Hmm.
But to do it on Power Pack, he actually had to make a ROM hack where it did this, um, and it was pretty interesting. So,
That's
but
wild.
yeah, yeah. It was something that like I was I didn't know if it was ever going to take off because most people don't do co-op, but the whole reason I even knew that that might be possible is because when I first did a co-op run of this game back in 2014, well 2013 really, but for AGDQ 2014, it was with Feasel and he had written what's called a Lua script, Lua, uh, to do exactly this because we lived far apart, like we lived many states apart. We were not going to be practicing a lot.
Hmm.
And he wrote this script so that it would do his part of the run and I would have to do my part. So, but it was on emulator,
Hmm.
So it's like on emulator you have much more flexibility versus, for what we're doing, it's like we're trying to get 915 here. You can't be practicing on emulator with input lag and then try to come and play on a CRT. Like that's not going to work.
No.
Um, so yeah, so we found a way to do it, on actual console. You can have the other chipmunk do the moves that you want them to do, and you can practice solo. It's pretty cool.
Wow. I've never seen anything quite like that. That's
I
very
don't,
cool.
yeah, I don't think it's ever been done, honestly. I don't think anybody would have thought to do it, and then even if they did, like they would have had to convince somebody to do like I paid this person money.
Hmm.
Like this was not like just like, oh hey, here, let me do this for you. I was like, I will pay you to do this. So yeah.
Dedication.
Yeah, no, it was because we needed that trick. It was such an it's a frame perfect trick that you have to get, and it's a box clip where if you jump at the perfect frame, it'll allow you to clip through this box, and it saves about like zero point 0.7 or something like that. So it was a pretty big deal in the run, and not being able to practice it all the time drove me crazy because I could practice a lot of other stuff. Like I could practice all the boss fights and the climbs and things like that were like those were the main areas of optimization, but this was like that one thing that we could only practice together.
Hmm.
um and then the funny thing is, by the time we got it, I think we got world record the next week, of course, so it's like I didn't even get to use it.
Well, it was funny you mentioned that the game's not that popular because I think it's like one of the more popular NES speedruns on
I,
speedrun.com.
you're right. I misspoke. I should have specified that the co-op speed run is
Oh,
not
I
that
see.
that
Yeah.
popular. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
you're
yeah,
right. The
understandably
single
so,
player,
yes.
yes, the single player is massively popular. That is true. As far as NES games go,
Hmm.
yeah. Because it is a pretty easy game overall, just to learn and to just do a run. Like it's super super easy. Um, and pretty fun too. But yeah, it's co-op. Obviously, there's the main challenge is finding a partner, and I mean, thankfully, speedrunning has grown enough to the point where that you probably could find somebody if you really wanted to do that. Most places, if you live in a populated enough area, there's going to be other speedrunners there now.
Yeah. None near me, but
Not that
unfortunately.
you know that you know of,
That I
that you
know of.
know of.
That's fair.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
they're
I
they're
haven't found
they're
him
they're
yet.
out there.
I have not
Yeah,
found
they're
him
out
yet.
there. Well, they might be PC speedrunners, or they might, it's maybe something that's not your main interest. But I got fortunate enough with General Andrews. Uh, I heard him on stream one time. He was doing, ironically, he was doing co-op runs with his other friend.
Hmm.
Uh, and so they're doing co-op, and he mentioned something about the Bay Area, which is where I'm located, and I was like, huh. So I kind of reached out to him, and we eventually figured out, oh, we live 20 minutes apart, and we were able to do this. So it was pretty cool.
It's nice when things work out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's got like three other co-op partners besides me. He somehow like just knows all these people that will speed run with him in the
Fascinating.
area. Yeah.
So Chippendale, I know a lot of like Mario 1 runners kind of run that game. It's like, very similar, like all skill NES style platforming.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of similarities. I think, and the platforming I think is the climb sections are like really tight, you
Hmm.
know. I think that's the separator for people that are going to be really good in the game versus people that are just playing more casually or not.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been, heckled about running it someday a little bit, so might have to give it a try. Have you done a lot of solo as well?
I didn't. I just went for like the simple goal, which is sub 10 minutes.
Mm.
That's kind of like sub 10 is free kind of thing, but it's
Well,
it's like a good barometer for a lot of NES games. They just so happen to be able to be completed in less than 10 minutes. So that's and this game is one of them where sub 10 is, it's not easy. It's not, super easy, but for somebody that had played enough co-op, like it was easy for me because it's like I already know all the boss fights. I can do the climb sections. Like, just got to put in some attempts.
yeah. So what about like the all stages co-op? Is that pretty significant as
So
well?
yeah, all zones. That one we did just for fun because what happened was there was another pair of runners, and they must have noticed on the leaderboard. They're like, "Oh, nobody's done all zones. Let's do it." And I think they got like a low 13-minute time or something like that. And then we saw that, and we were just like, we could destroy that. Um, but and we did. But the great thing that came out of that is that those guys, I'm trying to remember the names. It's Paul de Preki and geez, what's the other one? I'm gonna have to look it up now. I gotta give these guys their respect because they came up with some strats. So let's see here. Started my splits by accident there. All zones co-op. So they got. Sorry, my internet's being a little slow.
Well, as long as the stream is working. That's what I suffer from.
Wow, really? Is speedrun.com just not
Oh,
gonna?
it's probably experiencing maintenance right now. Check back later.
It's just
The
not letting
classic.
me look at any of the other category. This is bizarre. I've never seen this glitch before.
Hmm.
So I'm clicking on the different categories and it just won't pull them
Oh,
up.
wait, I've had
It's just like
this.
stuck on any percent.
Just hit the refresh button, I think.
Okay. Refresh should always
Yeah.
fix
What
everything.
I it's actually very interesting, but I have like a spreadsheet where I put all of my runs on, and I made it public so you can like click a link and it'll take you to the leaderboard. And when SRC made that recent like major update, it broke those and it would do that glitch where you couldn't
Oh
click anything.
no.
So I had to like redo the links. So if you have like like a shortcut link and that's what you clicked on to get there, yeah, it'll break it in that way.
All right. Well, maybe I'll be able to think of this guy's name oh, Hyrexen. There it is. Okay, Hyrexen and Paul de Predke. I just thank God I was like he's not too far down on the NA percent. He's got
Okay.
a 953. We found him. Mystery solved. So these guys did the all zones, but they found a few different strategies that we didn't use, and we were able to apply them in any percent actually first,
Mm.
and then they work in all zones as well. But yeah, the main difference with all zones is that you have the extra three stages. And so we had to come up with like the best strategies for those three stages, which was fun. And the nice thing about it is that the big component of co-op speedrunning and Chippendale Rescue Rangers is the death abuse. So as I
Mm.
mentioned, if you either player dies, they come back in the balloon. And most games you don't get that many lives to start. So in this game, you get two lives in reserve, and then the one that you start with. Um, and thankfully, each stage has a one up in the bonus stage.
Hmm.
So right away in all zones, you're getting three extra one ups from those bonus stages. Um, And then furthermore, there's an extra one up just in one of the stages itself, like just kind of sitting in the middle of the stage where it's actually not going to slow you down to get it. And you can get more flowers, which flowers are the equivalent of coins in Mario Brothers. Each 50 flowers for either player will actually spawn a one up, which is quite annoying. So in Mario, of course, it just the one up just goes into your inventory. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But in Rescue Rangers, for some reason, they decided the one up will spawn on the screen. And not only will it spawn on the screen, but it will spawn on the left side of the screen, which is the
Mm.
opposite direction that you're going. Because obviously, in every NES game, you're going left to right.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of spawning it on the right side where it's like you're already going that direction, they're like, nah, let's spawn at the back of the screen. And then people can scroll it off the screen. They probably won't even notice that it was there. Yeah, the developers were trolling there. But anyway, yeah. So in all zones, you do get that benefit of like the extra lives. So you have a little more freedom in terms of strategies because you can do more deaths.
Mm.
So there are some like nice time saves that you can do based on that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Very fascinating speedrun to like learn more about, honestly. Especially the
Yeah,
co-op
yeah.
things. I've watched so much like any percent like in all stages solo, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't like dove into what the co-op looks like too much. So this makes it
Yeah,
sound really, really cool.
it is. Yeah, especially if you're familiar with the game, then it's like it blows your mind because you're like, oh wow, that strat is like it seems like that shouldn't be possible, or this is such a cool way of getting through the stage. It's really, and I've done a lot of co-op speedruns, believe it or not. I think I've done like maybe 5 or 6. And this one by far is the best. I mean, it's not close. Like this game was made for co-op speedrunning. It's really the one. At least for older systems. I can't speak to newer
Mhm.
newer systems. There might be some really good co-op speedruns, but this one for older systems, hands down the best in my opinion.
Well, that's cool. I'm excited to browse some more co-op stuff on there.
Yeah, and I'll say this for anybody that's watching.
Whoa. All right. Well,
All right, we're
all
back.
right.
We're
We're
back.
back. We are back.
Back in action.
All right. We're gonna hope the recording isn't glitched up. I
Okay,
recorded in a format that it shouldn't, so we should be good. And
cool.
we can try to find our footing back here.
All right, we were
Um,
talking about all zones co-op, and I'm not sure where I got cut off. So what was the last thing you remember?
you were mentioning how like uh, it was like the live things, like how the
Okay,
lives
getting
work, and then you were like gonna mention something else interesting, and then it just like no, you
and
can't
then it
say
cut
that.
out.
Shut it off. Shut it off.
That's the secret. No, we can't give that one up.
No.
Um, no, but yeah, we ended up doing our first all zones run was a 12:07, and that was like at the time that was pretty decent. But then after we came back to do the 90% grind, we had saved so much time that like it looked like, oh, we can get sub 12 now, which of course again speedrunner obsession with next increment. We're
Of
like, yeah,
course.
yeah, sub 12, we got to get it. And then we ended up getting the sub 12 pretty quickly, and we were like, we could actually get 11:56, 57. So we ended up stopping at we got 11:57.3. 11:56 absolutely possible. We needed a kind of a break from the game, so we stopped there. But it's a very very good run. Like we're not like, I think there's also just one mistake in that run. I want to say, if I'm remembering
Wow.
right, I haven't watched it in a while, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just one thing that didn't go right for us. So so yeah, but
Yeah.
very cool game. And one last thing I'll mention that's like really, really crazy that this game has that most other games don't have is there's actually a secret menu in this game
Hmm.
in co-op. And to access the menu, you have to do a frame perfect input. You actually have to. So there's a main menu, which you press select to get to this menu. This shows, how many lives you have left, how many flowers you've collected, and how many stars you've collected. If you get 10 stars, that's also a one up. And then from that menu, if you press A and B on the exact same frame, it will take you to another secret menu, which allows
Hmm.
you to kill one of your chipmunks. And the reason they would put this in my opinion, is that the beta testers, they needed some way, like if they were soft locking, like when they were developing the game, they were probably
Mm-hmm.
soft locking in certain places. They're like, oh, we need a way to just kill one of these guys so we can keep going
Mm-hmm.
through the level. And I think that's what it was there for initially. And they just probably never removed it because they're like, ah, nobody's ever going to find this. And I had actually discovered it back in 2013 when I was playing with Feasel just by accident, completely by accident. I was like, whoa, what was this? Like, what is this? And then what ended up happening is we determined at that time, we were like, well, it's cool, but it's not useful. We can't really do anything with it. And then eventually what it led to was when General Andrews and I ran the game, there was this one area where we knew we could do a zip. It's the longest straightaway in the game that you can zip, but there's not a good way to set it up because of the nature of the stage. And the only way that we eventually figured out you could set it up is by using this menu to kill one of the chipmunks so the other one can like quickly go through the beginning part of the stage, because when you both are going through that beginning part of the stage, it gets messy. But this with the death, it's perfect. So this is in zone F for anybody that's curious to see. But you have to do the death menu fast enough to, and remember, it's frame perfect, the input. You have to do it fast enough to compensate for the fact that you're, so the time that you're going to gain on the back end, you don't want to lose it doing the menu. And the menu is 5 inputs, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 5 inputs actually takes a decent chunk of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but General Andrews became very good at it, and because only player 1 is the only person that can do this death menu. The player 2 cannot access it. So it was all on him to do it. And he would be able to do it in around 0.3 seconds, which ends up being about like 5 frames per input, I want to say, something like that, which is pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then given that one of them, of course, has to be frame perfect. Thankfully, it's only the one input, but the other inputs can be just normal button press. But it's a really cool feature, and it's actually, there are other places. Again, it comes back to that idea of like we haven't incorporated every single strat.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a few places we could save like maybe 0.3 with that strat. But again, it comes back to like, do you want to risk losing your run to save 0.3 for a frame perfect trick? When does the answer become yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're close to the point where the answer is yes.
I see.
So yeah.
So when you say frame perfect, like you can do the input on any frame. It just has to be A and B on the same frame.
A and B have to be pressed on the same frame. So it's
Okay.
actually a little bit easier in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd be surprised how hard it is to actually press both buttons on the exact same frame. Uh, it's not as easy as it sounds, and it's not like you can press one and then the other. Like they have
Mm-hmm.
to both be pressed on the exact same frame. When you release them, doesn't matter. Thank God, it's just on
Mm-hmm.
press. Um, but yeah, it is frame perfect.
It's interesting if it was like a way for the developers to like solve it. Like, why'd they make it so hard on themselves?
Right. I think yeah, it's really bizarre. I don't know. I don't know because really like going into that menu, uh, there would be no reason to press other buttons anyway. So it's not like it would
Mm-hmm.
impinge the gameplay in some way where it's like, oh, but people might be playing this and then they'll accidentally go into the menu. Like, no. Like you go into you press select to go into the menu and you press select to get out of the menu. And there's nothing you can do in that initial part of the menu. There's nothing to do. It's just simply displaying, because like in Mario, it displays your stuff at the top of the screen, right? How many
Mm-hmm.
coins you have, points, blah, blah, blah. This is just showing you that same information on a separate screen so that it's not on the main overlay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really, yeah, I have no idea why they would do it that way and why they'd make it frame perfect. Maybe they thought they were being cool and edgy, like, oh, let's make this super secret thing, and who knows. But yeah, makes the speed run a little more interesting.
Maybe when they were like gonna get ready for release, it was just like either A or B, and instead of like removing the button, they added the other button. Huh.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how it could work that way, but it's just funny. I'm
They
very
yeah,
curious now, like why that exists.
they goofed somehow.
They
Yeah,
goof somehow.
I can't see like a reasonable explanation of why it would be, it's like
Hmm.
But hey, that's the way it is. So, but thankfully, that's not necessary at all for anybody that's like just starting out to learn the run. That's literally you would only need to do this if you're going for world record.
Hmm.
It's just not a strat that is necessary.
Yeah, but it's cool.
It is
So
very
there you
cool.
go.
It is very cool. You get to do a very long zip, which saves over a second, which is
All
massive
right.
in games like this.
Well, I've learned a lot about Chip and Dale today.
Yes,
Very
yes,
good.
yes.
So I think we've talked about it plenty. Uh, I guess we can go back to Punch Out because
Sure.
we kind of stopped in like early days, but you did finally, like you said, you started streaming and then you finally did get the single segment world record, which is every fight in a single like start to finish
Yep.
playthrough.
Yep.
So
I did
so what was
defeat
that
Matt
like?
Turk.
Yes, very good.
That yeah, that was incredible for me because it was kind of like even though it wasn't kind of the legend of Matt Turk like how you see it now in the summoning salt video, like I knew he was the legend like that.
Hmm.
Like maybe other people didn't know who he even was. So I don't think it was like a big deal for other people at the time that I beat Matt Turk. I was like the only one that knew like, oh my God, this is such a big deal. Um, but so to me, it was like a big deal, and it was a triumph of not giving up, you know, because I did have to. I took breaks, I think, before I actually beat him. Like would grind for a while. I'd take a break and come back like 6 months later because I played other games. I played a bunch of other games at that time. Um, but yeah, finally beating him was pretty amazing, and it was a good feeling. And he did not try to come back to single segment after I beat him. It wasn't like the Sandman where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna come back and reclaim that." He was like, "Good job, man. Congrats."
Yeah, so how much did you beat it by?
When I first beat it, I think I got like a 1657, so it was not by much. It was only by a
Ooh,
couple seconds.
clutch. Yeah.
Yeah, and also these are in-game seconds, so the in-game NES seconds are they run very quickly,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course. So in reality, like if it was, if you were to convert it to real time, I'd probably beat him by like 1 second. So yeah,
Well,
it was.
even that you can't really do. He could have had a faster RTA because there's like
That's
RNG
true.
with in that sense.
Yes, yes, yes. That is absolutely true. Uh, but yeah, it was still just a very small margin of victory, and then I would push the time lower, of course. I didn't just like stop there, but at the time it was like, yeah, it was clutch. It was close victory.
So did you just stick with Punch Out primarily for a while?
Actually, no. When I first started speedrunning, I really liked to run a lot of different games. So I started with Double Dragon 2: The Revenge was actually the very first game that I ran before Punch Out, and I wanted to get a good run in that, which I did. And that's the game I actually played at the very first Games Done Quick event in 2010, which is classic Games Done Quick. I played Double Dragon 2: The Revenge, and then I had seen Andrew G was at that event, and he played like 10 games. Obviously,
Oh yeah.
Mario 1 and 3. I think he played actually 1, 2, and 3, and maybe even Super Mario World. He played like 17 games. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like, can you imagine somebody playing 17 games at a GDQ now? It's crazy.
If it's Andrew
Um,
G, yeah, I can.
he is a legend. He is a legend. But anyway, one of the games that he played was Punch Out, and obviously it was like not his strongest game, but I just remember seeing him like practicing and being like, I can do better than this guy. Which is not something I ever thought in any other game because Andrew G was like, he was like my speedrun idol. Like he was the first speedrun I ever saw, and like he crushed all these games and everything like that. But Punch Out, I was like, nah, this is I'm gonna come in here and do some real Punch Out. So after that event, that's when I started running Punch Out seriously.
I
So
see.
once again, I have Andrew G to thank for basically everything in my speedrunning career. Like every story that I tell you today somehow is gonna tie back to Andrew G. I promise you.
It always does.
Yeah,
So that's the legend of Andrew G. But
it is.
yeah,
It
you're the
is.
first person I've had on here so far that has like been to classic Games Done Quick.
Yeah, no, it's
So
not surprising. I mean, there was only, I think, maybe 20 something people at that
mhm.
event, and most of them do not speedrun anymore. In fact, I was so proud that I got to play at Awesome Games Done Quick 2020, which was the 10-year anniversary, because there was only two of us from that original group that played in that event, and it was me and it was Mike Uyama,
Mm,
who was of
okay.
course the originator of games done quick. So
Started in
yeah,
the mom's basement. I know the story, the
yep,
lore.
yeah. So for me, I actually almost didn't go because this was the first time that I was meeting any of these people in person.
Mhm.
And it was at this thing called Magfest, for anybody that doesn't know, which it's music, anime, and gaming, I believe, is what the Magfest stands for. And they have it at a hotel, and it's we're there, and the internet's not working properly, so everybody's at this thing, like all these Speed Demos Archive speedrunners have finally come together to meet in person and do this event, and they can't do it. So Mike's like, all right, the only thing my mom, her house is like 15 minutes from here. Let's move the equipment there and do it there. Um, and people agreed to this, but I wasn't in the room at the time. I was actually at the bar, with the hotel bar with a guy called Brental Floss, who
Well,
has
oh, really?
yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah. Oh,
know
so you
him.
actually know who he is. Okay, but
Yes.
not everybody watching this will probably know. Look up Brown
Yeah.
Floss if you don't know who he is. He does these songs. He does these like cover songs of old video games, and they're hilarious. It's like very funny and entertaining. And he was meant to actually participate in Games Done Quick as like an entertainer. He was just gonna like do some like singing during some of the runs. And one of them was during my run, Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. So I'm talking to him about this because I recognized him from YouTube because he was
Mhm.
actually like YouTube famous at the time, or at least enough that I knew who he was. And so I'm like talking to him, and then like he gets a text message, and he's like, they want us to come to this guy's house, and da, da, da. He's like, I don't know about this, man. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this. I don't know. This sounds a little weird. Um, and he decided, he's like, you know what? I'm not going, man. So he finished his drink. He went back to doing whatever he was doing, and I was kind of like, I was like, you know what? I drove all this way. I may as well just go over there and see what's going on. Let me just check it out. So I went over there, and thankfully it was like everybody was cool. It wasn't anything weird, obviously.
Yeah.
Like it was because the internet went out, and yeah, and then I actually had one of the first runs that night. I think they did maybe like a couple Mega Man games, and then I was on after that. And then I
Mhm.
did Double Dragon 2, and I remember it was so funny because they're like, do you want a headset? Do you want to do commentary? And I was like terrified to like talk or be on camera or anything. I was like, no, no, I just want to play my run. Like I like because I'd never really played in front of anybody before. I'd never been on a stream before. And
Mhm.
these people are all like legends of the game that are like watching, and I'm like, I'm already worried I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of these people, and now you want me to be in front of more people and talk. And so I just played my game, did my run, kept my mouth shut, and the commentators were Mike Uyama and Frezzy Man.
Mm.
And what happened, what ended up happening is they both leave during the run. So Mike gets called away because obviously, like, he's the organizer of the event, and like things are going crazy because we've moved it from Magfest to his basement. So he's like, okay, I got to handle this thing or whatever. So he has to leave, and then Frezzy Man's just kind of like, I never really played this game. I'm also going to leave. And I was like, so it's just like quiet for the rest of the run. Because I have no headset on. So like I couldn't even like have talked if I wanted to. But yeah, it was a pretty weird first run in GDQ. But hey. 10 years later, I'm playing blindfolded with Zallard 1, and he's on the D-pad and I'm on the buttons, and we're beating Punch Out. So it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny how the I didn't know like any of like the super in-depth history on like how classic games done quick got started. I knew about Magfest and the internet not working, but I mean,
Yes.
you don't talk to a lot of people that were there. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
there's
nice
not
to
many. There's
learn
there's there's there's,
the
there's not many to
details.
to begin with, and really the only people that kind of stuck with it, Trihex, obviously, he's still
Hmm.
around, streams. He doesn't really do speed runs anymore. Carcinogen, he still does speed runs. Rom Scout, he hasn't streamed in quite a while, but he'll eventually pop up and do some speed runs. Mike Uyama, Feasel, who actually recently returned to streaming, myself, and then I don't think Essentia still streams anymore. I don't think Mike 89 streams anymore. yeah, no, I think really just like the majority of people just kind of dropped off, and then the few that are left, like they might not even really do speed runs as much anymore. So,
Andrew G's still
um,
around, although
oh, Andrew G, of
he's just
course.
a
I'm
bit busy.
sorry.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you just can't forget that, of
why did I
course.
not? But yeah, he hasn't been streaming as much though. I think so. That's probably. I was
Yeah, he's a
thinking more like
family
of people
man
that are
now.
streaming.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, that is correct.
but yeah.
Yeah, Frezzy Man stopped after a couple years. He was like, yeah, he was a legend back then too. Frezzy Man,
Hmm.
that guy's. I mean, he's like this like Swedish guy that looks like a model, and like he did for his run Contra, he like actually like ripped his shirt off like Hulk
Hmm.
Hogan style, and he's got like a six pack. Like we're like, who is this guy, dude? Like, what is happening? Like, so yeah, we already knew he's like really good at video games, but he's also, got all this going on. So yeah,
Breaking the stereotype of
he was
gamers.
completely breaking the stereotype. We're like, you're not supposed to be this good at video games. What's happening here? Yeah, so it was a cool event though. It was a really cool event, and obviously it led to, all the games done quick events that would follow it, which I've been to
Hmm.
a great many of them. I've not been to all of them, but I've been to probably like 80% of them. So
Yeah, you were like a recurring character
I
from
guess
that
I
point
was.
forward.
Yeah, I guess I was. Well, initially I only would go to AGDQ because it was close by to where I lived, so it was out of convenience partially. But I eventually started going to SGDQ as well, and
Hmm.
then yeah, so I've been to a lot of them. But I have not been since AGDQ 2020. That's the last one that I attended. I haven't been to any of the SGDQs that they've done, and then the next AGDQ is going to be in person again. So maybe that's gonna be when I get to come back. I don't know.
Well, I'll be there at least, but yeah, I
Awesome.
know you like always ran blindfolded punch out in like every AGDQ since classic almost, or at least for
That's
a good while.
well from 2012. Yeah, so it was basically 2012, 2013, and 2014.
Hmm.
And then 2014 is when I had really done a great job, and they were kind of like, okay, this is done. And then the only reason we did it again was because Zallard was like, I'll race you. So then we did it in 2016, and then no more until again in 2020 when we did our co-op, one player, two players, one controller, blindfolded
Yeah.
run. Which there's no reason ever to do that run again. Like blindfolded should be retired. Seriously, like it's just not necessary anymore. If anything, the only reason they could do it again, and I hope you're watching this, Summoning Salt, is if Summoning Salt wanted to do single segment and blindfolded, because he can actually beat Mike Tyson in the first round blindfolded, which would be like absurd.
I annoy
So
him so often about going to an event, so
yeah,
I'm not holding out hope, but
yeah,
would be
he
funny.
might. Hey, I'm gonna tell you guys something. Anybody that's watching this, I've met Summoning Salt. I've
Yeah.
met him in person. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know you,
I'm one of the
Zallard, and him
few.
have met up. He's told me some
Oh, okay.
stories. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few people that actually know what he looks like and everything in real life. So I'm one of the few.
I know quite a bit of information that most people don't as well, but obviously I won't dive into that there, but
Yes, yes, of course. No, I just wanted to throw that flex out there, and then
oh, I
leave it
flex about it all the time, of course.
at that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a cool guy though. I
It's
like him
his
a
fault
lot.
for making me a mod, so that's what he gets.
Well, hey, I mean, yeah.
I think it's fair. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I know on like every GDQ event you did that run, you would get like progressively further and further in.
Right, that's how it happened. Yeah, so the first couple of times I did it, the very first time it was literally just like, oh, this would be a funny donation incentive because Andrew G, see, it all ties back to Andrew G. He
Yeah.
had done it on classic games done quick. He did Mario 1 blindfolded because somebody in the chat. This is literally how donation incentives used to work. Okay, like
Yeah.
somebody in the chat was like, I'll pay $25 if Andrew G does blindfolded attempt of Mario, and they're like, cool, throw
Sounds
down.
good.
You know?
Was
Yeah,
that the one with
that's
the giant
literally.
ass hat?
Yeah. He's wearing the
Okay, yeah.
sombrero. Which they put on me in AGDQ 2012, and I was not a fan of. Like, I already had a blindfold on. They like put the sombrero on top of me as well, and I'm like, this is overkill. We don't need this. I think I told them in 2013, I'm like, we don't need the sombrero, guys. It's cool. Um,
Needs to be retired.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so 2012, I just, Andrew G did this thing. I bet I could probably do it with Punch Out, and then so did it. And then I guess it was fun and people paid money. So in 2013, they're like, oh, should we do that thing again? And I'm like, yeah, that'll be fun. And then I actually did like get like decently far that time. I beat Bald Bull, which was like a big deal. I remember I had this like miracle win against Bald Bull that made no sense whatsoever. Like I threw a random punch at a time that I should not have punched. Like my like something deep inside of me and my subconscious like knew to throw that punch. I can't explain it to this day. And it connected obviously, but it was not a time that you're supposed to throw a punch. So yeah, I got that. And then but then I lost to Piston Honda 2, which at the time, like I didn't explain this at the time, but I was like, I should have beat him. I was like actually really annoyed that I didn't beat him. And then 2014, the next year, that's the one where I got all the way to Mike Tyson. And that one, that is always going to be like one of my favorite GDQ runs, no matter what. The energy in the room, like the crowd would just they would get a little bit louder with each fight that I won because they were quiet during the fights, but then in between is when they would be able to cheer. So it was almost kind of like they're like bottling up their energy, and then they just explode in cheers after each fight. And it just got louder and louder and louder until I got to Super Macho Man. And I remember like my heart was beating so fast. Like I've never had that much adrenaline before in my life that like I thought I was going to die. I was like my heartbeat was probably like, you know, 4 times what it normally is. Like it was so high, like it like was hurting. It was literally like a little bit painful. And I was like, oh great, I'm gonna die playing this video game right now. But I guess once the fight started, I calmed down. Like it went down. I think it was trying to like pump as much blood into me as possible so that my fingers were, they were good. I had the finger speed. And then and then I did like this insane thing against Super Macho Man that
The
I
9
had
count.
yeah, because I had written down notes for each fight, and one of the things I wrote down on Super Macho Man was like, no matter what, do not do a 9 count, because it's like if you mess up, and you don't get up, like you get sent back 2 fights to Don Flamenco 2, so it's like a huge penalty, to mess it up and it's quite risky. If you get up on 8, you get a lower refill and you get only 1 heart, which means you're definitely dead. And then obviously 10, so you have to hit it like precise on 9. But for some reason in that moment, I don't know, my mind just went blank and it was just like I'm doing 9 count, and then I did win the fight because of that. So yeah, it was pretty miraculous. And then I actually, in a weird twist, I made this big speech about how Mike Tyson was impossible and everything else, which was true at the time, by the way. Uh, Everything I said was accurate. Of course, it would later be disproven, but at that time, there was like no chance that I was going to beat him. And what ended up happening was I actually got really far in the fight. Like normally I would get like 4 or 5 punches in because I practiced it just a couple times. Like I was just on the off chance. I was like, on the off chance that I actually get to this guy, I need to make sure I'm not going to get completely embarrassed and lose in 3 punches. Like just get knocked down, knocked down, knocked down. So I at least had practiced just like a very, very little bit just to make sure I could get past 1 punch. But then I end up going like pretty deep, and it's like, man, like what would have happened if I actually made it out? Because I could have made it out of round 1 if I had gotten past that. The first minute and 30 seconds is the critical part. And I think I got to maybe like 110, 115. I can't remember exactly, but definitely further than any time that I had done it before. So yeah, but that was great. And then the next time, 2016, was against Zallard, and we had like a crazy run back and forth, but we both ended up beating the game. He won the race. but we were both on Tyson at the same time, so it was a decently close race. But both of us lost one fight. So he lost to Bald Bull 2, I lost to Don Flamenco 2, and yeah, it was a pretty fun one. And
Mhm.
then after that, just for fun, later in the practice room, we tried to do the one player, or sorry, the two players, one controller run, just for fun. And I think we got to Soda Popinski and we got like obliterated. And we were like, yeah, we probably can't really do this, like, you know. But we were excited that we actually got that far. And then finally, 2020, of course, was the culmination. That's when we beat the whole game and we went undefeated.
Yeah,
So
14-0.
14-0, and we PB'd by 15 minutes. So it was a
All
pretty good
right.
run, I think you could say.
Yeah, I was there when that
Oh, you were
happened.
in the room
I
for that
was in
one?
the room, yeah. I
Nice. Yeah.
actually I actually like preemptively like started cheering at the end because I knew like at the last set of punches that his health
Right.
was gonna go down.
It's
Just
over.
like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, no, there was no way I was messing up at that point. Like literally just pressing B. You know, unless the controller like fell on the floor or something. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But that run, that was like just such a crazy lucky run to get because nobody got to see the struggles that we had leading up to that. Like it was to the point that we literally we had one last practice and I told him, "Hey, if we don't do well enough in this practice, we're canceling the run. Like we're going to email GDQ and be like, "Hey, we canceled the run." It was
Mm,
literally that point we were at. And thankfully, in that last practice, because it was close to the event by that point, we were probably maybe like a couple weeks out from the event, and we did just well enough, like just barely well enough to be like, okay, you know, maybe we won't beat the whole game, but at least we can get to Super Macho Man. Like, okay, we can, you know, we can do a decent show. Um, and then we did like actually a completed run, but we had to use passwords because we lost. Uh, we lost to Super Macho Man and Mike Tyson, I think, in that run. So we had to
mm,
do like a password to get back because that's what we had decided. We were like, yeah, we're not going to do the thing where we go back and rematch the previous fighters. Like, we'll just put the password in and just fight the guys again, you
mm,
know? Um, so I think we ended up getting like a 38-minute run, and we were like, okay, all right, we technically beat the game. Like, we can keep the run in GDQ. And then we practiced at the event, and the practice wasn't going well because this was a new hotel. This is the first
mm,
time they're having it in Florida, and for whatever reason, the practice room was like right off of the main stream room, if you recall, and then right next
mhm.
to this
Yep.
main area where there was like all the casual stuff going on.
Mhm.
And it wasn't labeled properly, and like people kept coming in there and bothering us. We're like trying to practice here, and we're like, dude, like we're trying to practice blindfold. You're talking to us. We can't hear the
Mhm.
video game. So practice was not going well. Like nothing was going right. Um, you know, eventually though, we practiced enough that we were like, okay, maybe, you know, maybe we could do it. But then once we finally got on the stage, I felt like we got this. And I can't explain it because there's no reason that my brain should have been like, oh, yeah, we got this now. Like, nothing leading up to that point should give anyone the impression that we had that.
Mhm.
And Zallard is like, he was like freaking out because he always gets nervous before runs. That's his thing. I mean, he like, obviously it works for him because he always crushes every single
Uh-huh.
run. But he's like super nervous. Like, he's like, oh my God, like, you know, freaking out backstage. And then like I'm laying on the floor. I have like noise canceling headphones on. I'm listening to music, trying to like get myself in the zone. And he's like, what the hell is he doing? He's all calm over there, and I'm freaking out. Like, and it's just this funny juxtaposition of the two of us, like how we, you know, how we get ready for our runs. But then we get up there, and I'm like, we got this, man. Like you know, and I don't think he probably was like, what the hell are you talking about? But he didn't say that. He was probably just like, okay, yeah, sure, we got this. um But then once we started playing, it was just all over. Like
Hmm.
we just crushed it every single fight. It was just like a cakewalk. And I remember once we got past like Don Flamenco 2, like this like thought entered my brain that was like, "Oh my god, we're gonna beat the whole game," and I was like, "Shut up, brain! You trying to jinx this? Like, focus, focus."
Hmm.
But yeah, like we were able to obviously do it, and yeah, I think we had very few mistakes in that run. I think there was like a couple like tiny mistakes that didn't even cost us. Um, like I want to say we didn't get hit or we got hit one time or something. Like it was really incredible. Um, so yeah, definitely the best run I've ever been a part of at GDQ.
Yeah, I think that run was definitely like the coolest run I've gotten to see live for sure.
Oh, nice, nice. That's cool to hear that. Yeah, I
And
remember
it
we did ever.
was it was so packed in that room too.
Yes, yes, we had a pretty good crowd because thankfully it was like in the evening. It wasn't like a lot of
Hmm.
NES games get like put into the wee hours of the night, you know. So
Well,
it's
it was
like
Punch Out blindfolded. They knew what they were doing.
they knew. Well,
Hmm.
plus it was that we did have a big enough donation incentive. I want to say it was 150,000.
Wow,
Uh,
yeah.
so they obviously had to put it in a better slot. You know, you're not going to get that if it's at 4 a.m.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, it's that donation incentive has performed well enough. The blindfolded stuff, people show up for. But that was another thing too. I remember it was like way behind the pace. Like when it was getting close to the run, we're like, is it not gonna make it? Like it was really close.
Mm.
But they got a really good push in the last like 10, 15 minutes or whatever, and it was like, all right, you're on. So yeah, it all worked out in the end, and it was at the 10-year anniversary. Like, what more could I ask for? Like, from
Yeah,
Double Dragon to the Revenge to this.
yeah. It, the energy in that room, I do remember. I don't think I've experienced that since, really.
Yeah,
Like, I've been to a
yeah,
lot of GDQs myself, but I don't know. There's something about blindfolded Punch Out really just draws everyone in.
yeah, yeah. People, because it's a hard game, and people like know the intensity, and that you can only clap in between the fights, and
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Because there have been other blindfolded runs done, but
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know, something about that. It's
yeah.
part of GDQ history now, so I'm happy to be a part of that. And then Zallard, of course, he's a bigger part because he's beaten all three Punch Out games. He did the Wii Punch Out, Super Punch Out, and regular Punch Out, so he's done them all.
Yeah. Punch Out's great at GDQ, and we may never see it again because everything that can be done has been done at this point.
Yep. Until Summoning Salt decides he wants to show up,
Yeah.
then they'll bring it back out. They'll be like, donation incentive for Summoning Salt face reveal, $1 million, and then it'll get met in like 15 minutes. You know?
Hmm. Yeah. He's talked about having an idea. I mean, I think he talked about this in like 2018, but like getting some random person who's never touched the game in the audience to be like the two-player one controller with them, and they get them to.
Oh, that would be
I
fun.
yeah.
I like
Except
that.
he should be blindfolded. Then it's the next step. Exactly what
Oh,
you guys did, but
wow.
it's a random person.
Okay, okay.
No,
That would be
no,
cool.
that would be
I
cool. I don't see that happening. I'm making
I
shit up,
would
but
I would definitely. Hey, no, no, that's actually I like this idea. I like this idea. Like normally I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't know about that, but this is like there's something to this. I kind of like it. I kind of
all
like it.
right,
The random audience
I'll bother
member.
him again later. But
There you go. There you go. I'll make sure to bring it up next time I talk to him.
perfect, perfect. And I'll go ahead and admit this because you brought it up, but I do remember like that practice room being not
Uh-huh.
labeled, and just people would go in there and have like fun, like it was a normal everyday practice room. And
Right.
so I walked in there to watch a friend, and I saw you two going there. So I did kind of watch in the back. I didn't say anything.
Okay,
I made
okay.
sure to be
You were
quiet.
respectful.
I was respectfully watching in the background.
There
But
you
you like
go.
finished a fight, and I was like, "Wow!" And then this guy, I don't know who it is, but he turned to me and he said, "You need to leave," like in this very angry, pissed voice. And I was like, Okay, bye.
I think I know. Yeah, no, because I by that point we had told a
Hmm.
few of the staff members about it, and like I think they were trying to help us out.
Hmm.
So yeah, sorry
But
if they were
it
too tough
freaked me
on you.
out. I was like,
You did
oh,
the right thing. Yeah, we had no
okay.
problem if people were watching quietly. It was the problem was that people kept trying to talk to us,
Yeah,
and
that's not okay.
yeah, I think part of it was because and not to fault them either because I guess it could be misunderstood because we weren't actually wearing our blindfolds. We would just close our eyes.
Hmm.
So, because there's no point in like putting on the blindfold when you can just close your eyes, like you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Um, so that's how we would practice. So people maybe didn't realize that we were doing like actual blindfolded. If they're standing behind us, I guess they couldn't see that our eyes are closed. But anyhow,
Hmm.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think I was like a little too stressed out about it too, like how bad our runs had practice had gone up to that point. So it's like I was a little more on edge about the practice at the event than normally. And the run was early in the week. I want to say it was on like a Tuesday. So we didn't
Hmm.
have a lot of practice time. I want to say I probably got there on like Monday and then we had to do the run the next day. So we only got a few practice sessions in.
Hmm.
Um, but it worked out. It worked out, and I made sure Zallard was battle tested. I would like screw up on purpose to make sure that he was like ready for every situation that would come up. And he was like, "You're not going to do this during the actual run, are you?" And I was like, "I promise I will not do this during the actual run."
Hopefully not, at least.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Well,
And
you
I think
didn't, so there you go.
yes, yeah, I did not. I did not. I was good and well behaved. But I think it helped him to be prepared because I knew that I'm like we're gonna get into some wacky situations. So like let me try to kind of simulate that. I was trying to simulate like strange things because that's you've played in GDQ before.
Hmm.
Like that whole it's
One whole
never
time,
happened
yeah.
before is a real thing. Like you get up on that stage and weird stuff starts happening and you're like, this
Yeah,
is
I
some
did
weird
the
situation I've never
best
been
run
in.
I could have ever asked for when I did mine, so yeah.
Well, there you go.
I,
So
I I noticed
yeah.
a trend with that kind of thing. If it's usually
Yeah.
like a challenge run, at least.
Okay. Yeah, if it's a challenge run, but yeah, there's just I mean, I've done so many runs at GDQ and it's just like you'll get into these scenarios that you're just like you've practiced the game a million times and this has never happened, really? Like
Hmm.
something about it. Something about it. But but yeah, it all worked out in the end. We had the run of our lives and it's in the there's a speedrun documentary if you are aware or your
Yep,
audience
I've
is
seen it.
aware of the oh you've seen it great
Running with Speed, yes, I have watched
running
it.
with speed yeah running with speed and they do a section on punch out which is really cool because it's
Hmm.
not the most popular game but it was popular enough and
Well,
they chose the right year to do it.
yeah, I mean, well, they did have Summoning Salt narrate, and that's like his thing, so I'm
They
sure
did.
that
That's
helped,
true.
but
That's true.
it
That's
works
probably
out
yeah.
because, yeah, they did get footage of like the best run they could have gotten footage for, honestly,
Yes.
so.
Yes. It all worked out in the end. But yeah, no, that was really fun because we got to do an interview for that
Mhm.
as well while we were at GDQ.
Yeah, I
And
remember them
ended
pulling
up
people away.
mhm, it ended up in the final cut because we didn't know. I mean, when when they're filming stuff, it's like you don't know what's
Yeah,
gonna actually
I
end
know
up
people that got
in the thing.
completely shafted from the video, so.
Yes, I'm sure there were quite a few.
Mhm.
Because it's I mean it was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, but even that like there's so many speed runs. There's only
Oh,
so
yeah.
much they can cover, and only so many so many people that they can include. So I think they tried to like do it where they had main characters that people could get more acquainted with. Andrew G, of course, being one of the main
Mhm.
characters, uh, which is quite appropriate. So
Of course, yeah.
once again, I can't be in there if Andrew G's not in there. Like I said, it's everything that happens for me is somehow tied to Andrew G.
Mhm.
So
Everything is.
yeah, yeah, all roads lead back to Andrew G somehow.
As they should.
Hmm.
Um, there's something I remember. I think it was about like AGQ 2020. There was like a blindfold story. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I didn't actually bring my blindfold to AGDQ 2020. Is that
Hmm.
what you're talking about?
I believe so. There was like a
Yeah.
whole "I need my blindfold" thing. Yes.
Yes. So what happened was I was in such a rush getting ready for this trip that I forgot to pack my blindfold for Punch Out. And I remember getting there and just freaking out because I was like, I need that. And Zaller's like, oh, don't worry, I brought an extra blindfold. And I'm like, it's
Hmm.
not the same. It's not the same. Like, it has to be my blindfold. Like, this is like, I'm not a
Symbolic.
superstitious person,
Yeah.
but I was like a little superstitious about it. And yes, it is symbolic of like,
Mm.
this is, you know, this is it. So thankfully, I live somewhere where I actually, I have somebody that owns the place where I live, and I asked them, hey, listen, could you go in? I can tell you exactly where this thing is, and I need you to mail it to me like FedEx overnight. Like this has to be here tomorrow. And of course I'll pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and thankfully they were able to accommodate me. They're like, no problem. I can grab it. They, took pictures. Is this it? This is the thing? I'm like, yes, please send that. They never asked me about it afterwards. They're probably like, why did you need this exactly? This is weird. Um, but yeah, nope, got it. They sent it FedEx to the hotel, and it got there I think the day of the run. So just in time, and I had it, and that was also, I think that was very comforting to me as well. Like I really honestly wonder how the run would have gone if I didn't have my blindfold. Like I don't know if I would have been able to do it the same. I think something was gonna go wrong, but yeah, yeah, don't that's a lesson to everybody out there. You need to have a packing list for when you go to events. Because I thought I was good and I was not good. So yeah, but I got the blindfold right here actually. It's yeah, in this plastic bag so it doesn't like, because I mean this blindfold is extremely old. Like it could just fall apart at any moment. I mean it's the old Karate Kid blindfold from the Karate Kid movies back in the day, back in the
Mhm.
80s. Um, and then of course now that has been revived for in the show Cobra Kai, which I love. Shameless plug for Cobra Kai if anybody hasn't watched that.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored at all, unfortunately. Yeah, but yeah. So I could probably have an easier time getting the blind because I did look actually. That was the other thing I did because I looked. I'm like, can I just get it off Amazon or something? And they had some, but it wasn't the same. It
Hmm.
wasn't like this one is like official. Like it has something on there that's like official from the movie kind of thing. Like you know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, like they had made it at that time, whereas these ones now are just they're
Knockoffs.
knockoffs, exactly.
Yeah.
They're knockoffs, not the real thing.
No.
Um, so I have the real one, and yeah, thankfully got it just in time. Zallard had his blindfold, which actually I gave Zallard that blindfold at SGDQ. Sorry, at AGDQ 2014 when he did Super Punch Out
Mm.
the first time, because I had gotten, for whatever reason, I had gotten some extra blindfolds. I think just to in case I wanted to use a different one. And that was one of the one. And I realized I was like, I'm not going to switch away from this blindfold. So I had brought that and I gave it to him. And I think that's the one that he always used after that. So
Well, he better. He beat the game in
yeah,
2014.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it went pretty well for him. So he's like, yeah, maybe there's something to this blindfold. He's superstitious too, right? We both are,
No,
I guess.
I mean, there's evidence to suggest that it helps a little bit.
I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, I'll
But
take it.
um, God, what was I gonna ask? Anyway, hopefully I'll remember. I remember when we were talking about 2014, since we're back there. You said you like practiced Tyson a little bit, but would you have been able to do round two? Do you think if you made it there on
If I
Tyson?
made it to round two, I think I would have had a shot.
Hmm.
Like the odds would have went from like 1 in 1 million to maybe like 1 in 500, 1 in 100. Let's say
Significantly
one in
better
100.
odds.
1 in 100. I think yeah, because I did think that I could do that beginning part because I knew the pattern. I knew like the pattern at the beginning of round two, and I knew I could get stars.
Hmm.
So I feel like there would have been a chance, but it would have depended on how much I got knocked down in round one because you only get to get knocked down 3 times total across the entire fight. So if I had gotten knocked down already like once or twice in round one, then it gets a little dicey. But I would have at least been a better show. I'll say this: I bet you I would have at least knocked Mike Tyson down once. That I think was very high odds if I got to round two. I would have got at least one knockdown and then I probably would have lost the fight. But that still would have been really cool. Like
Hmm.
just the fact that he knocked him down, right?
Yeah, I mean, the start
Um
of round two is easy to at least do that. You just buffer the down and put and then punch. So at least you got
yes.
that for a while. It obviously depends on his health and
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
everything, but
yeah. Yeah, would have been a lot of variables,
mhm.
but I
But
think
I
it
guess to
worked
the
out okay.
casual observer, it'd be like, oh my god. I love when you
Yes.
start round two and you end round one with one like pixel of health left, so it's just one punch and it's like 2 seconds he's down.
Right, 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 right. He's just immediately down. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a very interesting differentiation, and all three rounds are so different. And that was the thing for us, for Zallard and I, when we did the two players one controller, is we knew that we could not go to round three. Round three was like impossible,
Mm.
uh, and so it was really a lot of pressure on us to not mess up round two. We knew we had to finish the fight, and thankfully we had like I think a perfect round two. We did exactly what we wanted to do. Um, Not that we never won in round three, but I'd say it was less than 50% win rate for round three. Like
Hmm.
we were getting cooked a lot. It was tough.
I don't understand round three. He does
Yeah,
like
you're not
those
meant to
random like
understand
double
it.
punches things. I don't get it.
He just yeah, his patterns are not even patterns. It's just so all over the place. He can just do
Literal
anything.
randomness. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I've now so I have like a single segment run on the leaderboard. It's like 40 minutes or something, but I wasn't planning
Okay.
on submitting it. I was I do like ILs for fun here and there, but I was like one night I just was recording like an IL and I was like, I'm gonna try to just beat the game. Like I only knew up to Great Tiger.
Oh.
And I 14 and 0 without knowing the end
Wow.
game.
That is
But
incredibly impressive.
yes, but the funny thing is, I went to round three on Tyson. Like I knew how to like defeat him in round two. I just screwed it up. And in
Okay.
round three, it was like I just got lucky. I would dodge randomly, and it would happen to be when he would do and I barely survived.
Wow.
Like I was like
That's
barely health away.
you might want to give Punch Out a serious try if you just 14 and 0
I've
to your
told him
first
I would
try.
if Salt would go to a GDQ, but I don't know. He hasn't yet, so
Uh,
that's the deal.
All right, so he's gonna
Hmm.
hold you to that. That's once he finally shows up, then you're doing single segment runs. Got it.
Yeah.
I'll file
But
that
yes,
away.
that speed run is on my list for
Okay.
sure though, because
Okay.
I mean I already know like half the game. I just got to learn the other half.
Yeah. 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 It's really not that tough to learn, to be honest. It's a fairly easy speed run to learn if you're not going for like the extreme strategies.
Hmm.
It's really just Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson, and you already know Mike Tyson. You already have a 257,
Hmm.
so you're ahead of the game on that. Um, I mean, if you're
I
trying to do
never beat
advanced
him in
stuff,
round one, but because that was the only time I have ever beaten him in round one, and I've tried it again. So
okay,
round two Tyson for me if I did single segment.
if you did it, yeah, yeah, or you might, you practice enough, you might get the
Mm.
the round one
It is
consistently.
it is hard to because there's not no good like cue. You
Yeah.
like have to get the feeling for the frame perfect, and
Yep.
I don't
You
know.
just
It's
you,
just
you
hard
have
to
to
do
get the
that.
muscle memory. But thankfully it's the same muscle memory like each time. So
Yeah.
that is the one saving grace of it. But which is why I think like some of the players that play currently Summoning Salt and K3 and J Durg and MPAP
Hmm.
Sallard, like that's how they became so consistent at beating Tyson in the first round, because they all have way higher consistency than I ever had.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm just like not a high tier gamer. You know what I mean? Like I think as speedrunners, we're all obviously to a casual person we look like we're insanely good. But then when you get into speedrunners, I feel like there's different tiers of how good people actually are in terms of like their skill level, uh, just at gaming in general, and then sometimes in specific games. Um, but I was never that high on that list. Like when I would go to GDQs and stuff like that, I'd see people that were just way more impressive at gaming than I ever was. But I've had good fortune to like have some good runs here and there, so I've been able to do it. I've been able to at least look like I can do some things
Yeah, I think you did pretty well in the games so far,
so
I'd
far.
say.
Yeah, Yeah, so far, so far.
Mhm.
Uh, but nowadays the level of competition is just so high. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
have no records left anymore. The only records that I still hold are with General Andrews, the Rescue Rangers co-op, the two categories. That's it. And those ones, like I said, they'll probably stand for so long just because there's nobody competing. Um,
Mhm.
we do have a few people that started playing Junkyard Dave and Kat Konoichi. They live together, so that's easy for them to play.
Mhm.
Um, but they're I don't think they're gonna go for world record. They're just trying to push the time down a little bit.
I
So
have a card from Junkyard Dave on my desk because I bought a 3DS off of him.
oh nice, nice. Yeah.
Just
Yeah, Junkyard Dave's a good guy. I like him and he wants to beat the second place. So I'm like I've played with actually a lot of different people in that game. It's a little bit of a meme. I think I've played with like six different partners. So I'm like in the top 10. I think I'm six of the slots on the leaderboard. I'm half the
asserting
team.
dominance.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I'm always looking for more. Like I've told Zallard, like we need to do a run. I try to get Rom Scout, like we need to do it. We haven't got around to it, but I'll get both of them. I'll get, eventually I'm just gonna, I'll have like
You'll
nine
be
out of the
the
10.
entire top 10.
I can't do that because there's no way I can ever beat Cypher and Blecky with all the different partners.
Okay,
Their
well.
their their run, which was the first run of the game, they set the bar so high. Like having been around speedrunning for 10 years, I can feel like I can say this. But when it comes to like a first run, a lot of those back in the day, the SDA runs, they weren't very good. They were
Mhm.
just kind of like people just did it to kind of say, hey, there's a run now. But Cypher and Blecky, they're two that have the mentality of like hyper optimization. So they didn't care that there was nobody competing against them. They're like, we are gonna crush this game into oblivion. And they went like hard. And they got a 927, which still nobody has beaten outside of. I beat it first with Andy, who of course
Mhm.
was the one player world record holder for a good amount of time. We beat it in Sweden at ESA.
Mhm.
So that was the first time I ever had record was because General Andrews and I hadn't gotten that good yet. But I knew Andy was so good because of his one player. I was like, maybe we can do this. And we beat them somehow. I can't even
Mhm.
explain it, but I mean Andy, that's how I can explain it.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, so that's the second place time is Andy and I, and then the third place time is Cypher and Blecky. But like the average people are just not going to be able to touch that, even though that run is from like 2013 or 2014. Like even people that play the game now, even with all those advanced strats, will have an extremely difficult time beating them, which is unusual. It's very
Mhm.
unusual for like the first record of a game. Like if I think about legendary runs from back in the day, I think of Hoda Ruby in Super
Mhm.
Metroid. He's probably like 100 on the leaderboard now, and that run was like the epic run of all time. Or Andrew G,
Mhm.
right, when he had first, the first sub 5. Like how many people have sub 5 in Mario now? Like what, like over 100,
350 something,
350? Yeah, so
something
it's
like that.
like in most cases these kind of legendary first runs are like they just get obliterated. But this is one game where um like I just don't see that happening. Like
Mhm.
it's which is insane. It's a testament to the to how good they were at that time.
Mhm. Yeah, Mario 1 leaderboards are probably a lot different than you remember them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, I've seen like how many people have just crazy low times, and you're just like,
I'm almost out of the top 10, and if we're going to talk about Andrew G, my PB is over a second faster than his.
wow, wow, yeah, no, that's insane. And yeah, and then and you're like you said, you're almost out of top 10, which it's yeah, that game is crazy. I mean, that's gonna be like
It was
that.
tied third when I got it though.
That's yeah, that's insane to get to that level of a game that popular. Like I never got that level of any of the games that I played because they weren't as popular as games like Mario.
Mhm.
Um, so there was never kind of that level of competition, which is why I was again able to kind of escape that whole like thing. I started at the right time. Let's put it that way. If I had discovered speedrunning in like 2019 or something, like I would just be some average Joe that nobody ever heard of, straight up. Like I just wouldn't have. I would not have achieved the levels. But hey, you sometimes it's right time, right place, and that was what happened for me. I started speedrunning at the right time.
It certainly is hard to make a name for yourself now, even if you are good at games.
Yeah,
So there's so
yeah,
much people now.
yeah. It's insane, and for like so many games, like I remember when the Punch Out leaderboard was like just me and Zallard, and that was it. Like now
Oh, it's
there's
quite massive now.
yeah. It's there's really a lot of people, but yeah, most of the older games I played, there was not a lot of people.
Hmm.
We're trying them like Ninja Gaiden. Even that was like a little bit slightly more popular of a game, but there was not like a ton of people. Batman was another one. Um, but yeah, there'd usually be like less than 5 runners for a game at that time, which is just crazy.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot now, unless like the game's
No.
super, super like unheard of.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
NES games, there's gonna be at least like double digit runners most of the time.
Yeah, but I wonder what's gonna happen. What's the future of this? Because it's natural that games get kind of obsolete. People forget about them. This nostalgia is lost. Like all the
Mm-hmm.
people that grew up with NES, like they're all getting much older, moving on with their lives, etc. Like, so people that are coming into speedrunning now, they're going to be nostalgic for games that are from like later than N64, like probably GameCube generation and on. But it always astonishes me that somehow like there'll be some like super young people that will get into like Mario. Like all the top runners are just like very young. Um and it's like
Everyone above me is younger than me, and I'm 24, pretty sure.
right, yeah, so it's just
Yeah.
yeah, I don't understand like how Mario somehow eludes that. And it always has been the case because even when Andrew G played, he was super young, and then
Oh yeah.
Cosmic was like super young. Like it just always has that draw. And then that happened recently with Super Punch Out. Like there was like a whole community of people that were like teenagers playing the game, and it's like this game was out so long before all of you were born. How did you even get interested? I don't know. um but I do see like NES used to be a lot more popular when I first started speedrunning because a lot of the community was of that age of like they grew up on those games. So, I mean, like even me, like I used to get, like over 500 viewers when I was playing Punch Out, uh, which is insane. Like I'd never get that many viewers now. But it was because NES was more popular at that time, and there were less streamers on Twitch, of course. But just to think like how that's transitioned away, and you see people getting less and less viewers that play NES games. It's just not the same that it used to be, unless you're someone like Arcus, for instance, where he streams like a large chunk every day. So people are in there, but but for the most part, like NES and even Super Nintendo is starting to fade like just a little bit. The thing that keeps that going, I think, in my opinion, is just the quality of the games. It's like it's good enough that even people that play newer games can at least like look at it and be like, oh, this is a video game. Versus some of those NES games, they're just like, what is this pixelated nonsense? Get this out of here. This is like, you know, like the
There
way that
sure
we
is a
think
lot of
about Pong.
garbage.
Yeah.
But
There
there are some
is.
bangers too.
There are. So that's my hope is that, people will somehow just, kind of stick with and be able to appreciate. But it's like what happens when, there's no more CRTs. Like that's gonna happen one day, right? People are gonna have to play on these crazy setups, which take it's a huge time and money investment to try to get set up on like a lagless monitor and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So for people that are just joining Twitch or speedrunning or any of that, like they're not gonna do that. Like they're just gonna
Yeah,
play
it's
newer games.
well, there's always
Um,
emulation that can make it a little
there
easier,
is.
but
There
yeah,
is. Thankfully, yeah,
I
which a lot of people do. I just can't. I can't do emulation. I mean, having
yeah,
played on the real thing and everything, I just can't. No.
yeah. I
But
played an emulator for a year, and then I went to a GDQ, and I went to console. And never looked back after that.
there you go. It just, yeah, it feels so much better. The only time I did emulators when I very first started speedrunning, because that was the only way I could really practice for Double Dragon 2 was I had to practice on emulator, and then I'd have to switch, and it was like so hard to get your brain to go from, because there's a move in that game that you have to do repeatedly that it's a 4 frame window for that move. So it's already kind of hard to do if you know, because you have to be able like the move itself is obviously 4 frames is a pretty big window, but
Mhm.
you need to be able to execute the move correctly at like 90% or better, which that's the actual hard part.
Mm.
Because you know you mess up sometimes, and going from emulator doing that 4 frame window to the console, obviously the window shifts, and you're just like
Mhm.
your brain is like, what's happening? But yeah, I think after that, then I was, and I did practice a little Punch Out stuff on emulator, but that's not as big of a deal because the
Mhm.
movement in Punch Out is so like easy and
Buffered.
standardized and buffered that you can't
Mhm.
like it doesn't matter, you know, it's not yeah, it's fine. Like that's not as bad.
Mhm. Yeah, well, for me, my family just happened to have an NES, so I grew up with it. So even though
Perfect.
I'm like nostalgic for the Wii, I'm also
Right.
for the NES, so it's fine. I think
Okay.
Mario
Yeah,
1's the first game I ever beat, so it works
that's
out.
that's the big hope is that that's like a family thing of like, oh, I had an older brother, or oh, my dad had it, or whatever it is, like
Hmm.
somebody introduces you when you're young. That's like the only way that NES is going to kind of hang on, because if you look at like arcade games, like that's to me that was always going to be the fate of NES and
Mm.
SNES and so on, is like, you know, there's just nobody to pass down the legacy of these games anymore. You know, you don't see like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are a ton of people joining the arcade game community, but I don't think so. Like I think a lot of those games have kind of faded. Other than maybe Donkey Kong. I mean, that one maybe
Hmm.
has kind
That
of a
one's
hardcore
quite
base.
popular, yeah.
Andrew G again. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
he's
There he
played
is.
that.
Oh yeah. I was talking to someone who's like interested in Donkey Kong stuff, and I was looking at the leaderboards, and Andrew G is one spot above Billy Mitchell.
Oh wow, he
Like
popped Billy
what
Mitchell.
Billy
That's
Mitchell's like
like
actually
actual time,
verified,
not his times that
not
have
his bullshit.
been
Yeah,
somewhat,
exactly.
yeah.
And I was just like, I just found that funny.
That's
That was
great.
pretty
I
good.
love that. I love that.
It's just pure coincidence, but of course.
But of
But
course.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I really am interested in video game history and preservation and all that. So hopefully, as long as there's more people like me who are younger and still care,
Mhm.
it'll never truly die off. At
Yeah,
least I'd
yeah,
like to
yeah. I
think
think
so.
right. Just maybe just the popularity of like speed runs of the games will
Hmm.
wane and it'll go down, but it'll still be there
Speedrunning
in
is
some regard.
helping to keep them alive, I think, because like some NES games are like incredibly popular speedruns, and I mean emulation's 1-to-1, so it's pretty easy to just do it that way if you need to.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So
No, hopefully it'll stick around for a long time to come. Uh
it's only been
that's
going up ever since the
that's
start.
true.
So
No, that's absolutely true. It really has. I mean, the amount that it's grown, because I think you can actually look up the number of users on speedrun.com, and it's like crazy how many,
oh my
you know.
god, yeah.
I'm sure there's some duplicate accounts, but even if you factor that in, it's like still hundreds of thousands of people, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. It
So,
might even be in the millions now. Who knows?
it could be. It
It
could
could
be. It could
easily
be.
be with how many people there are in the world and how popular it is.
Yeah, it's definitely become more mainstream because I'll hear it used, like I'll hear the term speedrun used in places that normally you wouldn't
Oh
think.
yeah, I've noticed it. Like, I watch YouTube a lot, like I
Mm-hmm.
used to, and I found, I got into speedrunning because I found a something saw video on a whim. It was just an
Oh,
accident. Yeah,
wow.
and I was
Which
like,
one?
wow, this is cool. It was actually the original Mega Man 2 one.
Nice.
Hmm.
Oh, I love it.
It, I think I was like looking, trying to find the soundtrack or something for it because I wanted to hear one of the songs, and
Okay.
that popped up, and I just watched it. But then the
Wow.
Mario one was like recommended under it. I'm like, oh, I played this game a lot,
Okay.
and then yeah, I
And then
was
you were
hooked
hooked.
from that point.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Man,
But
that's so
anyway,
crazy.
like so I didn't know what speedrunning was at all. I found that on a whim. But now, like any YouTube video I watch, almost like any YouTuber I watch in modern day, which isn't just speedrunners, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll make like a speedrun joke or something. I'm just
Yep.
like, like go, wait a second. It's
Yeah.
so common now. It's
Yeah, it
crazy.
is. No, it really is. And I love to see it because I remember when I first started, like nobody had heard of it. I'd have to explain it to
Hmm.
everyone. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, like yeah, even what Twitch was, even now, like people now
Hmm.
know what Twitch. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, this thing called Twitch. And I start to explain it. They're like, I know what Twitch is, and I'm like, oh okay. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it used to be, not many people knew about it, so it's kind of cool to see. So did you watch the new Mega Man 2 video?
Yes, of
I,
course.
I, I would think you have.
Yeah,
Okay, what did you think
the
of that one?
explicit and sexual content Mega Man 2 video. Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh. Ooh.
poor summoning salt. There was a one too many F words in a 6 second period apparently
Hmm.
for the YouTube to
Like,
allow such things.
and they do that to him the week after they like were praising him with like the speedrun day thing they did on YouTube. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
really?
weird. Yeah. Like a week before that video, like not even a week, a few days, they like there was like some international gaming day or something, and they like celebrated speedrunning. So like the YouTube logo had like the Mario 1 any% time on it, and there was
Really?
like a playlist of speedrunning content. They made like a little video showcasing stuff. You might have been in it too for some
I
GDQ thing, maybe, I don't remember,
Really?
but
I never heard
it's
about this at
possible.
all. It wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me though. I'm like, I
but
always am like the last to find out about this. Somebody be like, hey, did you know you were in this thing? And I'm like, no,
yeah,
I didn't.
they dropped Summoning Salt by name and talk about his videos, and then like a few days later they copyright struck his fucking video. I don't know, it's weird.
Wow. Wow. That's
or
insane.
or age restrict. Sorry, not copyright strike. I'm
Yeah.
used to them
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that too. So
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Well, hopefully I didn't curse too
mhm.
much in your video. I think we're good. I think we've kept
Mhm.
it family
Oh,
friendly.
I don't care.
We're not gonna get any strikes or any of that for this one.
I don't have monetization on anyway. I'm not big
Oh,
enough
okay.
yet, so we're good.
All right. But you're gonna
We're
get there
good.
eventually, and then these videos, they need to be able to
These
hold up.
videos get a few views and they're long enough to where the public watch hours are going quite up. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're
That's
hopeful.
There you
But
go.
yeah, I saw the new Mega Man 2 video.
Okay. Yeah, that
I'm
was
actually I'm actually in it, in quotes. He does a little ad read, and he has like little joking ad leads, and he shows a leaderboard, and it was like two fake names that are just funny, and like a bunch of people called Scrub or something. But it's the Mario 1 leaderboard, and I'm one of those names.
Oh,
It was an
oh, nice,
intentional nod, I've been
nice,
told.
nice.
So
Oh, that's cool. That's fun. Nice little
so
Easter egg.
I remember because I was watching it with someone, and I recognized the leaderboards instantly because it's Mario 1. Of course I know it.
Hmm.
And I saw him scroll down to this random username, and it was my name color where I would have been on the leaderboards, and I was like, "Oh, hey, I didn't know about this." So yeah.
Nice, nice.
But yeah, good video. Apparently they said fuck too much though. So, oh
Yeah,
well.
can't do that. Can't do
Can't do
that. It
that.
wasn't even summoning salt. It was Elo.
It was
He's
Ella.
he likes to curse. I mean, what do you guys? He's playing the hardest game of all time. I mean, I've speedrun Rockman 2, which is of course the Japanese version that you have to play on.
Mhm.
Uh, it's the hardest game I've speedrun by like quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
So
that game
yeah,
is like a joy to watch though. I
it
love watching
is.
Mega Man 2.
It is. Yeah, I prefer now. I would just watch. I'm actually. You know what's funny? I've streamed it recently a couple times because I'm preparing for. Here's my shameless plug. My 10-year partner anniversary is
Mm.
coming up in December, so I have to do some kind of. I had actually stopped streaming. I hadn't streamed in like 4 months, and I realized I'm like, I gotta get ready. I gotta do something for. I mean, 10 years. Like this is a
Mhm.
big deal. So I decided I'm gonna try to play a bunch of the old games that I used to run. Punch Out, of course, be included. And but I was like, let me just start with the hardest one first and get it out of the way. Like Rockman
Mhm.
2, I gotta get. I gotta derust this thing. It's impossible. Um, yeah, it's been humbling so far. I'm like, yep, this game is just as hard as I remember. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's still I still love it. It's a great game.
So you were partnered in 2013?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
When did you start streaming officially then?
2012. I can't remember which
Wow,
month,
quickly.
but 2012, and then I was fortunate that I had already built up a base of not uh, fans isn't the right word. I had built up like people that knew who I was because of Speed Demos Archive. So they had seen
Mm-hmm.
my speed run. So the first stream I ever did, actually, like I had no good technology. I had no game sound and no webcam. It was literally just
Mm-hmm.
gameplay with no sound. And I had 20 viewers.
I
Very
wish
first stream.
I wish it was like that for
Um,
me because I was
yeah,
Micless and camless for a long time. I at least had game audio, but
you at least had game audio, exactly.
mm-hmm.
No, but that was because people knew who I was, and that I like posted it on the site on Speed Demos Archive, and people were like, oh wow, you're gonna actually start streaming, um, and they watched me, and then obviously I was able to get sound and webcam and microphone pretty quickly. And then once that happened, my viewership started going up a lot because there weren't a lot of like popular NES streamers at the time. It was really Josh the Funk Doc and Feasel were like the two biggest. And the Mexican Runner hadn't even started yet by that time. I think he came around in maybe like 2013. So not too long after. But yeah, there weren't really like a ton of like big name NES speedrunners. So, like when I would run Punch Out, I would get a lot of viewers. And it was important too, because at that time, the requirements for Twitch partnership were that you actually needed to have 500 concurrent viewers average. And somehow I made that. Like, you had to do it over, I can't remember if it was over a month or however long it was. But the requirements were quite high at
I've
that
never
time.
even been close to the 75. Come on.
Well, you can get there. 75 is doable. I believe
Yeah,
in that.
you're like flexing on how easy it
A little, well,
was. No, I'm messing, but
even now, no, I mean, I'd struggle to get the 75 now.
mm-hmm.
Honestly, if I'm not playing Punch Out, it's a lot of it's game dependent. If I play Punch Out, yeah,
Yeah.
75 is not a problem. But like Rescue Rangers, I think we would probably average, between 60 and 80. So it was, it could vary. It could vary somewhere in there. But
More people need to watch that after today. Sounds
I
interesting.
hope so. Well, we haven't played though. That's the thing, is we've not been doing our co-op runs anymore.
Mm.
So when we come back to it, hopefully we'll still have some people watching. But yeah, no, I got partnered so long ago that when I got partnership, you didn't get a sub button when you got partner. You would have to get that separately. Like
Hmm.
it was like you get partner, and then all you could do is run ads. That was the only way to monetize. There was no Twitch Prime at that time. There was no gifted subs. There was no cheering, no bits, none of that. So, and then after some time, then you would get the sub button. Like if you continued to be a good partner or whatever, then you would get the sub button. So I got, so I must have gotten partnered even before that, and then got the sub button in December. So yeah, it was weird back then.
I can imagine. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't start watching Twitch until I found out about speedrunning. I found like the two together, so I have no idea which really was like back in like early 2010s.
It was weird. You could customize your own Twitch page. Like you could actually do like HTML and CSS on your Twitch page
I
to make
have
it like,
seen some cursed layouts from back in the
oh,
day.
have you? I
Yes.
had one. Mine was so good. I wish I had a screenshot of it.
Mm.
It was like a
Gotta
punch out
preserve that
theme.
stuff.
It
Yeah.
was a punch out themed one. It's probably actually looks terrible. I'm sure if I saw it now, I'd be like, ugh. But yeah, no, I had that going on, and yeah, it was pretty fun. But yeah, I ended up getting partnered, and I still have at least one person that has subbed to me from that very first time. And that's why I knew I had to do the 10-year anniversary. I'm like, I'm actually gonna name it. It's a guy called Pac-Man, and Pac-Man. It doesn't matter if I've taken like 4 months off or whatever. I'll come in and he's gonna sub, and it's the streak is all the way from the beginning.
Mm.
So when I get to
Wow.
December, he is gonna have the 10-year streak. And maybe there's like a couple other people that might have it, that they're just they haven't you know been around as much, but I know for sure at least he's gonna be there. So he's keeping me honest. Pac-Man's making sure he's making sure I stream for the 10-year anniversary. So, but that's pretty cool. Like I can't believe that somebody's actually subscribed to my channel for 10 years. It's really insane to think about.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's like double the length of time I've been speedrunning. And that's
yeah,
already seems like an eternity for me.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I still can't believe that I'm still speedrunning to this day. I mean, like I was basically retiring after Rescue Rangers, because I had kind of like I did, there were no new games I wanted to play, and the thing with Rescue Rangers, the reason I was able to keep going for so long is because it's co-op and it's so much more fun when you're doing the activity with somebody else. It's not such a grind, you know.
Hmm.
Like it's just a really enjoyable activity to do together. And we kept finding new stuff, new optimizations and pushing and going further. So it's like I still really enjoyed that. But then like outside of that, like I wasn't gaining enjoyment of like, oh, I want to go back and play Punch Out, or I want to try this new game, or like that just wasn't interesting to me. So so I think yeah, the 10-year anniversary might be kind of like my last hurrah in
Hmm.
speedrunning. But never say never. People always say they're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
retire and then they don't retire. So who knows? But
I know people that have retired like 8 times, so
eh, exactly.
you can never
So
leave once you join. It doesn't
yeah, I
seem
think
like.
so. I think it would always be a part of me. I mean, like it's such a
Hmm.
big part of my life that, to have done it for this long, like it's never gonna fully leave me. Even if I stopped playing, like I'd still watch speed runs,
Hmm.
or I'd still, participate in things like, it's not very often I get asked to do something like this anymore, but I was excited when you're like, "Oh, hey, do you want to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's awesome. I love talking about this speed running stuff." So, you know, those things will still happen from time to time, um,
Hmm.
but probably less and less if you like as you go away from the hobby. But
Yeah. Well, the real ones remember though, so.
yeah, all right, yeah, I'll definitely be one of those, hopefully.
Yep.
So
So I remember. So when I started like joining Twitch, now they have like these tags or whatever, but they used to have categories, and there's a
yes,
speedrun category, and
right.
I think you have some ties to that specifically.
Oh, the communities. That was the
The
feature.
communities,
It
that's what
was
it was
called
called.
communities. That's correct. So yeah, yeah. I guess for anybody that's watching that doesn't know, I do work at Twitch. I started working at Twitch in 2016, so I've actually been there for I guess it's gonna be 7 years. Wait, what? What is it? Already 7 years? Already 7 years. So it's gonna be 8 years in February. Wow, my goodness, time flies. But I started working there, and I think one of the position that I actually got hired into was called uh, community program manager for speed running. So we had different like communities that we were going to focus on. This didn't last for very long, but it was like an idea that like, Twitch was like going to kind of have a point of contact for a specific community rather than just you just talk to a bunch of different partners. And speedrunning being obviously one of the bigger communities on Twitch, they wanted to get somebody, and they already had Rom Scout worked there, but he was also focused a lot on the charity stuff. And there's a lot of charity events on Twitch that are not speedrun events.
Hmm.
So he had his hands full with that. So he was like, I need to get somebody else here. So he told them, hey, can we make another position for the speedrun person so that I can like not have to, work a million hours a week. Um, and then he actually first told me about it when I was at Nintendo World Championships in 2015, which was one of the coolest experiences ever. But he told me about this job, and he's like, yeah, in case you want to apply, it's probably going to get posted soon. So just keep an eye out or whatever. And I didn't really think much of it. I had a job and I liked my job, and I didn't, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to work at Twitch. But eventually, like he said, hey, that job got posted in case you want to apply, check it out. And I was like, what the heck, let me throw an application out there just to see what happens. And then the next thing you know, I'm doing like a phone interview and then another phone interview, and then they're flying you out to San Francisco because I lived on the East Coast at the time, and then doing the in-person interview, and then you're getting a job offer, and you're like, oh, I actually have to make a decision now.
We're
So
in too deep.
yeah, I'm in too deep. I had to make a decision, and it's nuts. And it was actually not an easy decision because, like I had mentioned, I really loved my job that I was at, and I had a great boss. Like he was a mentor to me. I had great coworkers, so it was like not something that I really wanted to leave, but I also was like, well, Twitch, I mean, I'm not going to get another chance to work here again. It's not like I can
Mhm.
just decline this and then I'll be able to work there whenever I want. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So obviously I ended up accepting, and then part of the, part of the job is, of course, you want to bring visibility to your community. And I felt that one of the best ways to do that would be to change the discoverability of the site in a way that would be able to highlight speedrunning, because I knew that even though like speedrunners may not get the most viewers, there were so many speedrunners, like I just knew there was a massive amount of them. Just even at that time, speedrun.com, you could see the amount of users. And so they ended up making this, building this product called communities, which were terrific for speedrunners, but really not great for anybody else. But it was a great discoverability thing where people could just click on communities, and then like it would show which are the top communities, and speedrun was always like one of the top. I can't remember what the other few were, but it was always like in the top 3, top 5 kind of area. And I think, so people would then click in and then they'd see, oh, these are all the speedrunners, and they could discover people. And yeah, that was something really early on. But then it ended up, because it was not a great feature for the majority of users, I think they ended up just, kind of sunsetting it and being like,
Mhm.
On to the next one. Uh, so that was gone, which now it's really been replaced, I guess, by tags. You can obviously put the speedrun tag on there, and then if somebody wants to discover all the speedrunners, they can go into the browse and they can, add a tag speedrun.
Mhm.
Of course, it's a little more manual to do that. Somebody would have to know they're looking for speedrunning, as
Mhm.
opposed to just like being able to click in to see which are the communities and seeing, oh, this is one of the biggest communities. I go there. So it's not quite as nice, but it's something at least. And then I think that the recommendations are way better now. Like I don't know, when they first came out, I think maybe they weren't as strong, but like I'll get recommended people that I've never heard of that are speedrunners, and then I'll click in and I'll watch them, and so I know it works in that regard. Or I'll get people that are recommended into the channel based on the algorithm. You're watching other speedrunners, you're going to get recommended speedrunners, or you like certain games, you'll get recommended. Um, but yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
So you still work there?
I still work at Twitch. I'm not that position that I spoke of is no longer the the position that I hold. So I work in a more internal facing role. I'm not dealing with the community anymore. But it
Mhm.
was really fun that I did deal with the community for like my first like 4.5 years there, something like that. So one of the great things that I'm really happy about and proud of is that Games Done Quick comes to TwitchCon. So they call
Mhm.
it GDQX, Games Done Quick Express. And I didn't know what was going to happen. Like once I transitioned away from that role, I was like, I really hope they keep going with this. And then because the pandemic also, so there was no live
Mhm.
events. But as I'm sure you've seen, they did announce they're
Mhm.
going to be at Games Done Quick uh, Express will be at TwitchCon Las Vegas. Um, and I think that for people from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, this is a no brainer, right? Like, Games on Quick is so awesome, and why not have them at? But TwitchCon is really about like Twitch itself. And if you look at everything, if you ever go to TwitchCon, you see everything. Everything there is Twitch.
Mhm.
And Games Done Quick, while it is on Twitch, it is not a first party Twitch thing. Like this is a
Mhm.
separate thing. So they're really the only ones that are there from the outside, like from the community, being part of TwitchCon as an official, like part of TwitchCon event kind of thing.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. Like everything else is run by Twitch. So that's like something that I was able to get, that I'm like very happy about and
Mhm.
proud of, and proud that it's still going on.
Yeah. I'm glad they like accepted that because I feel like speedrunning helped make Twitch what it is. Like
Absolutely. I agree
I've
with you
heard so many
100%.
things about that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that, speedrunning really did bring a lot of people to Twitch, not only as viewers but as streamers too, because unlike a lot of the other communities, like they're just the it's much more skewed towards viewership. Like if you took a segmentation of like all the people that care about, League of Legends or whatever game it is. Maybe that's a bad example, but you know, pick your popular game, and then it's like, a huge percentage is going to be just viewers that never actually stream. But then with speedrunning, it's like if somebody's a speedrun viewer, there's like a pretty decent chance they also speedrun themselves.
Hmm.
I don't know what the exact numbers are on that, but I know it's like quite high relative to other stuff. So I think that's definitely true what you said about speedrunning bringing a lot of people. It's bringing people to both sides of Twitch, and then
Hmm.
the people that do stream, they're also of course watching. Like if I'm streaming, I'm also watching my other speedrunners that I'm interested in. So yeah, and they've been on there since it started because they switched to
Hmm.
Twitch basically as soon as it came out. Justin TV became Twitch in 2011, I want to say, and I think that the first GDQ that was streamed on Twitch was SGDQ 2011 or AGDQ 2012. It was one of
Hmm.
those two, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
Um,
because they originally on like SDA in some way, right?
they had it on. No, there was this other site called Ustream.
Oh,
May
I
still
haven't heard of
exist.
that. Mm.
Yeah, it may still exist. Uh, yeah, it was different. It was a different site. But because the problem with Justin TV was like it would kick you off if you had too many viewers. I know it sounds ridiculous, but this was like it
Okay.
had some kind of viewer cap. And so I think that like, GDQ is like, well, we don't want to have that problem. Like we want to be able to have as many viewers as can watch because this is a
Hmm.
charity event. We want people to watch and donate. Um, so they ended up going with Ustream initially, but then obviously Justin TV, Twitch, they got rid of that, whatever that thing was, and then as many people can watch as is possible now.
Hmm. Yeah, so I just know like the old footage of GDQ, like GDQ and everything, or like
Yes,
associated with SDA, like on their YouTube or something, like prior to GDQ YouTube existing. So I guess I
correct.
just never knew where they streamed it. I assumed I guess it would have been on whatever Twitch was, but not
Yeah,
so.
no, not so, not
Hmm.
so, not until 2011, 2012, they made the switch.
Well, a good switch it was.
Yeah. They also used to stream, they streamed two different streams. There was one stream with the game, and then there was the other stream with the commentators. It was
Oh
like two separate
yeah.
streams. Yeah,
Okay,
it
so
was
the
weird.
so the footage they show on like YouTube is combining the two, and
It's
that's why it's like
combined.
those weird squares.
Yeah,
Oh,
yep.
okay. I thought that was
Yeah.
just the layout. Okay.
No, it's yeah, they did it two different streams.
Fascinating. How long did
Technology
they do
was
that
weird.
for?
I think it was just the first two
Okay,
AGDQ. So CGDQ and then maybe AGDQ 2011. I think maybe they did that,
got it.
but yeah, it was interesting.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. I guess I never put that together,
Hmm.
but that's why it was always like no audio in brackets, and it's just like why is that there?
Right, right.
Because I remember, the first ever like run on GDQ is Andrew G, of course, Mega Man One,
Of
and
course,
I
of
remember
course.
seeing it because it was like, oh, of course he started it. So I watched it and I was like, there's no audio, and it just half the screen is the game and the other half is just black and then no audio text. I was like, okay,
Oh,
so this
but
is
part
how
of
it
that,
used to be.
no, you know what though? Part of that was because they were still trying to figure out the tech setup
Yeah.
at the house. So I think for that run in particular, they had an additional tech problem.
Hmm.
Uh, but they got that straightened out by Mega Man 2. So see,
It
check
was
Mega
just funny.
Man 2 and see what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something. It was something.
Yeah. I'm always a little upset that I joined speedrunning so late because like early 2010 sound like a really fun time to be a part of the community.
It was, yeah, it was very different. You go to an event now and it's just a massive amount of people, and like it's the people that but when you used to go back then, like you knew everybody. Everybody knew
Hmm.
each other, and it was all runners. There were no people that were coming just to watch. That didn't really start until 2015. I'll never forget 2015 was the first time because 2015 AGDQ specifically. So 2014 AGDQ, was the first time that we had raised $1 million, and the viewership was quite high, and there were a bunch of epic runs. And 2015, I remember when I got to the hotel where it was being held, and they had the people that are doing the check-in, like one of them didn't know who I was, which, and I'm not saying this to sound like pompous or anything, but like I said before that, everybody knew each other. So
Mm-hmm.
this person was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "What is happening to GDQ? People don't know each other anymore." And just thinking it was weird. And then the person next to them was like, "That's Sinister1," like, and they were still like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that is." Like why?
For shame, but
Yeah, it was funny. So I was just like, okay, here's my ID. Um, but I knew that was like the turning point. That's when I was like, okay, wow, this event is really big now. That's when I kind of
mm-hmm.
knew. Because it was like you'd go there before, and it's like, everybody knows each other. And like, oh, hey, Sinister, what's up? And you're seeing everybody, oh, hey, what's going on? And this was the first time that it wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, it's a natural part of the progression. But yeah, that if you ever want to get a taste of like what it was like at the earlier events, you can go to other events.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to
And
like,
I do, yeah.
okay, so yeah, if you've been to other small, that's what it's like. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically, so it's like when like when RPG Limit Break, they used to do like you go to that would have like an early GDQ feel. That would be an
Mm-hmm.
example. Um, ESA has gotten like a decent amount bigger, but even them, like going there the first time, it still felt like still a little closer to those early days.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there was probably like, I don't know, 500 people or something, but it was still like a little bit more like that, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, still
Yeah, I've been going
exists.
to GSA's Pace event, and that
There you
usually
go.
is like 200 or so people, and yeah, it's a much different vibe. Like GDQ
Yeah,
has like now the cliques and everything, and everyone just kind of hangs out with everyone, and at when it's that small.
right, right. Yeah, Pace is one I would have liked to go to. It's funny because I actually used to live close to where they have Pace, but now being in California, it's
A
like I have to go
little
across the
far.
country to go to it. But maybe one day. I'm
Yeah,
still holding out hope. I'll get there one day.
it's a fun time. I was lucky enough to participate in a tournament they had because they're kind of more tournament focused, and they have
Yes.
like, but they keep it 24 hours to do the showcase
Right.
stuff.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah,
yeah, like
it's a good combination. I like the
yeah,
event.
they balance it very well. So I hope it keeps growing, but if it does, it'll become another GDQ, and then it's like, well, I want that smaller aspect. I don't know. It's weird, but
Yeah.
the way it is right now, though, it's really good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I can imagine.
yeah. So I'm actually going back there in November because I have a 100% success rate on getting into the event currently.
There you go. There you go.
So
Yeah.
got to do some runs there. This has been a big year for me, actually. Personally, I've gotten into GDQ and both paces.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
and I don't. I think last year I also was in pace, but that was like my first ever run on a stage live. Like I've been on GDQ online, but never.
But
So this
not the
year's
in
like the first on
person.
stage. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, on stage is fun. Having that energy of the
Miracles happen up there. I'll
yeah.
tell you that. Not that you wouldn't know, but it's
I
true.
mean,
The
I
legends are
I
true.
am aware. Yeah, there have definitely been a couple miracles for me. I've done enough runs. I've been blessed to have multiple miracles. But yeah, it can go really well, or it can go, sometimes it doesn't go so well. I've had some runs that didn't go well either. That's part of the journey. Um, I had one run that was at like 4 a.m. and I had like no sleep, and I was just like, yeah, it didn't go great.
Yeah, what else have you
So,
run at GDQ? I only really know about Punch Out and uh the Double Dragon thing.
let's see. So I've done, yeah, so Double Dragon 2, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, uh, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Ninja Gaiden,
Hmm.
Ninja Gaiden 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, Batman.
Mm.
Uh, that might be it. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think that's everything.
That's
Did I say
quite the
Rescue Rangers
collection.
2?
You did,
Wait,
yeah.
Rescue. Okay,
Oh,
because I
both.
can remember I said
1 and
Ninja Gaiden
2?
1 and 2, and then Rescue
Okay.
Rangers 1 and 2.
Yeah, okay.
Um, Gosh, I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
It's already quite the
I
collection,
think,
I'd say,
yeah, I
so.
think that might be it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, like, because in the early days they used to do the same games like a lot. Like
Oh,
I'd
yeah,
run them multiple times.
yeah.
So I've probably done like I think I've done like 30 something GDQ runs
Wow, that's so many.
when it's all told. Um, and I could have done also the relay, the Mega Man relay, which I was the organizer for.
Oh, yeah.
I was meant to do Mega Man 2 or Rockman 2 rather. Um, but one of the players came from Japan and he wanted to come. He didn't want to come alone. He came with another runner, and so we ended up having him do Mega Man 2 because he was only like maybe like 15 seconds behind me or something like that. And it's like the dude came all the
Yeah,
way
why
from
not?
Japan. Like
Yeah.
let's let him run the game,
hmm
you know. Um, so I was happy to just commentate that one, but and then that's the most nerve wracking game to play. So in reality, he was just doing me a favor by playing instead of me having to be the one up there.
Oh my god, it went out again. All right, back after a bit of a power outage. It's been a few hours, but we're gonna finish things off here. We got this.
Yeah.
So it'll be a seamless transition into YouTube, obviously. So exclusive YouTube content.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
we were
Twitch
just
Twitch
talking
doesn't
about
get to see this. Sorry, Twitch.
sorry Twitch, but I mean we talked pretty well about it. So since you work there, it
Right.
sounds like pretty good. So we were just talking about like Mega Man 2 relay at that GDQ and the Japanese runner taking your spot.
Yes, yes, yes. So that was kind of a fun game that I could have played but didn't play, which, you know, like I mentioned, he probably did me a favor because that game is really intense. I have played that game live in other events, and it's the most nerve-wracking experience out of any like live performance experience that I've done. That is
Yeah.
the game that terrifies me more than any other.
Yeah, I've tried a bit of it myself. People have taught me things here, there, GDQs. It's really fun to play. Like the zips are fun to
Hmm.
execute, but seeing like top level gameplay is wild. The
Yeah.
amount of stuff you need to do.
Yes, yes, it is a very high skill cap for that game, but kudos to anybody that takes it really far with that one. There's
You
definitely
most
a
certainly have.
I took it about as far as I could go. I beat what was the at the time in 2014 the world record was 27:21, and always wanted to beat that record, and then it was beaten by many people by the time I got around to playing. But that was still like my goal, you know. I was like, I still want to
Yeah.
beat that world record from 2014, and so I did, and then I was like, done.
Yeah. Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. I don't care if I'm only like 12th place on the leaderboard or whatever it was at the time. Like that was still good enough for me.
Yeah. I mean, all that matters is that it satisfies your goal, right?
Yes, yes, the goal was absolutely satisfied. No question. I had to go through a few things to get there, but you know, it was worth it in the end.
hmm And I see you. We're playing Mega Man again, probably in preparation for this 10-year anniversary
Yep.
thing.
Yep, yep. So I will be playing it a little bit. I'm not like really trying to PB. This is more just to kind of de-rust and be able to complete the game in a reasonable time in a no reset run.
Nice easy sub 30.
Sub 30
I don't
can
know.
be
It's
yeah,
pro.
no, sub 30 is reasonable as long as you only make like one major mistake, which is pretty typical of a
Oh
Rockman
yeah,
2 run. Sub 30 is still totally within reach, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Really great game to watch. Again, it was my introduction to speedrunning by freak accident, so I
Yeah,
always love watching it.
absolutely.
All right, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. If we want to try to wrap things up here, just ask a couple questions I just asked at the end, since we're not going to have chat anymore because of
Right.
the power
No,
outage
yeah, yeah.
situation.
No,
But
no Q&A. The
no
Q&A is
Q and
in
A.
the YouTube comments, guys. Exclusive
Now there you
Q&A.
go. Perfect, perfect. All right, I'll just come up with some default stuff.
All right.
What are some games or people you love watching, but you don't? It's not like speedruns you'd perform yourself.
Oh, easily Super Metroid, which I did speedrun, but just marginally. Reason being is Super Metroid's one of my favorite games of all time. And I would never want to play it to the level where I got frustrated with the game and didn't like it anymore. So always want to keep my
Yeah.
nostalgia glasses on. So I played it just far enough that I did a speedrun of it, but I never got mad.
Perfect. That's honestly very based, so
Yeah.
understandable. Yeah, Super Metroid's that's a game I don't know much about, but just watching it, it's always like at the end of a GDQ or something.
Yep.
Like twice now when I've been in person, it ended with Super Metroid,
Oh yeah.
and it
Yeah.
is quite the spectacle.
It is.
So
It's an amazing game. Absolutely
yeah,
love it.
I'm looking forward to giving it a full on playthrough sometime. It's on
Oh,
my list.
please
So
do. Please
hmm
do.
there's so many games that are just stuck on my backlog that I need to get
Hmm.
to, but I got time. Just speedrunning's too addicting. I
True.
got to do stuff, you know.
That's fair.
All right. Well, unless you can think of something we might have missed in the whole history lesson here, uh, and kind of end things off.
All right. No, I think we covered it pretty well. I got to talk about all the main games that I played and, fun events that I got to participate in. Um, so yeah, it's been a great 14 years for me, and hopefully I'll be able to kind of stick around the community for a while longer.
Yeah. I mean, we'd love to see you go to events and stuff still. Probably not perform, but
Yeah.
unless you want to, like, but
Maybe. The only game that might be played would be Rescue Rangers co-op with General
hmm
Andrews.
oh, that would be great on the
Yeah,
stage.
we've not
Wow.
done all zones. We did do any percent at SGDQ 2019, but we've never done all zones, so we
Ah,
might
that
see if
was
we
the
could
one I
do that
wasn't
one.
at. That's why I missed it. Okay.
Ah, it was
Got
also
it,
at
got
like
it.
4 in the morning, so that would be the
Oh, well,
reason
that, yeah,
most
but
people missed it. So
I've woken up early for runs. Well, I don't know if I would have known about it back then, but
right,
yeah,
right,
an all
right.
zones run would be really good.
It would. It
So,
would be it would be amazing. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get that in there.
yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, we can go ahead and end things off here if you want to self promote however you'd like.
All right. Yeah, no, thanks a lot for having me on. It was great. It's always fun talking about the old days and the current days. And yeah, if you guys want to watch me, I'm on twitch.tv/sinister1. I stream about once a week, and I'll be doing kind of the de-rust of my old games leading up to the 10-year partner anniversary in December of this year. And who knows after that. But that's what I got going.
Yep, and you can find all the links like on the stream and in the YouTube description, of course. Always make sure to leave them there. And yeah, so if you're seeing this on YouTube, it's been a week and a half, but I'm on vacation, so had to record some footage at a time, but hopefully we'll keep doing the weekly stuff. And yeah. All right. Thanks for being on and thanks for watching everyone and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.